Well, good afternoon and good evening. It's a few minutes past 7 p.m. Eastern Time, so time to get started. I'd like to welcome everybody to the NatGat 3 planning call. I'm Lisa with Occupy Sacramento. I will be facilitating today's call. Jackie with Occupy Buffalo will be doing the technical assistance, and Carrie with Occupy Hilo will be taking notes. Thanks to all of you. We've got, it looks like close to 20 folks on the call already. So to save time, instead of formal introductions, I'm going to ask that everyone, the first time you speak, tell us who you are and where you're from. Currently, your mics are all on mute. When you want to speak, press 1. That will put you on stack. Press number 2 if you want to show approvals. It's like twinkles. Press number 3 to show disapproval. Press number 4 if you have a direct response to the current speaker. Press number 5 if you're having any technical problems, and Jackie will take you into a private breakout room and try to solve them. When you're finished speaking, say I check or I yield, I'm done, to let us know when you finish speaking. And finally, if you try to limit comments to a minute and a half, because we do have so many people on the call right now. Today's agenda is posted at, if you'd like to follow along with the agenda and chat, it's http://natgat2014.titanpad.com/4. And Sparrow, we've noticed you're on the call, so I believe Cal and Chaz are going to get together and work out a solution that will work for you to participate. I also want to mention that I encourage anybody who wants to add items to agenda anytime during the week to go ahead to that document and go ahead and add them. We'll try to get to as many as we can. I'd like to mention, too, there's also a chat feature in that same, right next to the agenda. If you want to chat with other people during the call, I would like to get a volunteer who could monitor that chat if possible, because that's another way for somebody to let us know if there's some sort of a problem. Finally, you can also communicate via the participants dashboard. There's a link to that came in your verification email that came from InterOccupy, letting you know the date and the call-in number. Click on that link, follow it through. You'll be able to send a message to me, and I will be able to read it and or forward it out to the rest of you folks. Okay, let me go over the agenda very, very briefly. We are going to start out with announcements, and then we will move into report backs. Then we're going to go into old business. The first item of old business is to firm up our dates for NatGat. Our next item of business is going to be a discussion with no voting whatsoever, basically just sort of maybe an enlarged report back where we can find out what is going on, what kind of progress being made with the anti-racism training group. Finally, if we have any time left over, we'll talk about the structure of NatGat, sub-themes and subject areas, and also the Occupy Caravan. Okay, I see Jennifer, you've got your hand up. Go ahead, Jennifer, your mic is on. Hello, Jennifer, are you on mute? You press number 1.
Yes, I'm sorry. Is this a good time to make an announcement?
I was just about to call for announcements, but that's fine. Go ahead and lead them off.
Thank you. This is Jennifer from Detroit, and most of you already probably know this, but I just want to make sure that you do. There were 3 young women up here in Mason, Michigan that were charged with a misdemeanor and felony. I won't go into all the details because I think you probably already know, but I just want to encourage you to look up their story. They locked themselves to heavy equipment in protest of the Enbridge oil pipeline being built bigger to carry more tar sands through. So check the website, Michigan CATS, C-A-T-S, which stands for Coalition Against Tar Sands, michigancats.org. And we're especially trying to get people to sign a petition there. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Jennifer. I think some of those people may have been involved with the NatGat last year. Lisa may have been one of them. So, yes, thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. Okay, does anybody have any more announcements? Cal, did you have an announcement? Go ahead, press number 1 on your keypad if you did. Okay, Cal, go ahead.
Hi there, folks. So I'd like to announce and you'll get an email about this will be sent out to the planning group, and the link will be distributed outside of us as well. The creation of a new list to replace the list that was that was put up last September for folks that want to support the effort to make scholarships for people to come to attend an Undo Racism training. And you'll hear more about that, I'm sure, as we get into that topic. But I want to let people know that that list is up and running, and I've already contacted the 9 people that had signed up for it last time, and a few of them have responded saying they want to be on it. And then I'll be sending an email out probably tonight to the group, to the NG 2014 list, saying that anybody else who's interested can join, because I know some people have written me asking me to add them. I'm going to send the link out so you can add yourself. That would be the best, most empowering, self-empowering way to do that. In addition to that, we have a set up but hasn't been activated yet, a new list called Occupy Racism. That's the email counterpart to the Facebook page, and that list will get launched as shortly as well. So those are my 2 initial announcements. Check.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Cal. If anybody else has any more announcements, please press number 1. Okay, let's move into report backs. Again, since we didn't do official introductions, go ahead and the first time you speak, give your name and who you are from. So where you are from. So anybody has any report backs from a subgroup, please press number 1 on your keypad. Looks like we've got Chaz, and we'll be followed by Sharon and Jackie. Chaz, go ahead. Your mic is on.
Hi, this is Chaz from Pittsburgh, and I have a report back from Outreach Subgroup, mainly with regards to the caravan, because we decided to start working on it a lot earlier this year. The good news is that we have people in the southeast, the northeast, the northwest, and the southwest all bottom lining different caravan routes. Some are working with Facebook, some are not, but we've got all 4 parts of the country covered, and so the caravan is moving forward. There is something on the agenda later about the caravan. That's mainly for volunteers and help. So when we get to that, maybe we can discuss it more. Check.
Okay, great. Thank you. Excellent news. Sharon, go ahead. Your mic is on.
Hi, you just heard from Cal, and I would like to reiterate what Cal said. The process is already moving along. There's no need for a vote on it. This is just following through on some work that we agreed to do last year at the end of NatGat 2. There's a working group being formed. There's an Occupy Racism group that's going to be ongoing, working with Occupy on racism as an issue within Occupy, and that's it. There doesn't need to be a vote about whether or not to do it. It's happening.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. I see you press number 5. Also, are you having any technical problems?
No, I'm not having any technical problems. I only pushed 1.
Okay, it's probably one of those technical flukes then. Thanks. Okay, next report back we have Jackie. Jackie, go ahead.
Hi, Jackie, Occupy Buffalo. Just very briefly, got the admin team, what do I want to say? I got it set up a little more formally this week, have a spreadsheet for tasks. A bunch of people did join the list. One person signed up to help with the general email inbox. But at any rate, we're getting organized, working very closely with tech. And if anybody needs, you know, anything from us, just let us know. Check.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. Finally, I have a report back. Tricia is not able to be on the call today, so I'm going to report back for her for media. And she reports that Facebook has garnered 3,456 likes, 43 new likes this week, 4,442 people engaged. For the Facebook event page, we've got 155 going, maybe 83, and invited 3,099, which sounds pretty great for this far in advance. As far as Twitter, 723 followers of RTs and Solidarity. There are admins from New York City, Philly, and Hawaii. The group is compiling images for a promo video, so please send your images to her, to Tricia, via Facebook message or through email. And her email is Tricia, Tricia, .shore@gmail.com. And finally, she reports regarding graphics, multiple meme strategy is working well. So more and good variety of the memes is paying off. Okay, last call. Are there any more report backs? If not, let's go on to our next item, which will be our first item of old business. We like to start a discussion about process. Process as far as how we make decisions, because consensus means different things to different people. And we've been working with a fairly informal process up till now, but it's really time to start talking about having something a little bit more formal, just to make sure we're all on the same page. I would like to turn this conversation now over to Cal. He's going to go ahead and start the conversation. So go ahead, and if you have any questions for him, go ahead and press number 4 on your keypad. So, Cal, go ahead. Your mic is on.
Okay, thanks. So last week the decision-making process working group started up, and we've decided to have a little bit of conversation about this. We haven't gotten very far. If you're interested in becoming involved with formation of the process group, then please send an email to me at cal@interoccupy.net, and I will ask to be added to that list, and you can join the discussion. The group essentially had, and I believe we talked about this on the call either last week or the week before on this call, had 2 different tasks. One was to create a process for this group to function, and another one was to create an overall, or to propose a process for this group, and then also to propose a process or processes for the larger effort of the national gathering. We haven't come up with anything just yet, but we do have, some of us have been talking about an interim proposal just so we have a way of making decisions, because right now each facilitator that comes on has his or her own way of actually doing this, and I don't think that's, in my opinion, that's not the best way to handle a group. We need a consistent process. So I wanted to actually propose that we adopt, at least for the moment, and it doesn't have to be long-standing, just so we can actually make decisions, essentially the OWS process that was created for the General Assemblies, and I'll lay that out in a minute or 2 after we've heard from some other people. I guess the question is, do we even need to do that? can we still just get along with the few items we have to make decisions about by just twinkling and having people raise objections in sort of an informal manner? Because it's sort of been working for us. Since we don't have to vote on an anti-racism proposal at the moment, the urgency for that seems to have diminished. But I wanted to see where everybody was at. So let's see if you really have something pithy to say about this. Please respond. And if you would like me to bring lay out the OWS process, which we used to make a decision at the last GA, at the last national gathering, I'm happy to do that. But essentially, it's basically the OWS process with one slight modification. Check.
Okay, thank you, Cal. I've got a couple questions. I see Nikki has her hand up. So, Nikki, go ahead.
I submitted two things to the process. One is not appreciating OWS's way of dealing with the blocks that Cal outlined in the email that I'm sure he's going to set forward. But the biggest thing that I find that has created is the alienation and exclusion, just in the concept of, if somebody blocks, to me it's more empirical, it's more even, it's more accessible to the general public if we use something empirical like a timeline. If we don't come to consensus on something, we go on to the next idea. Eventually, the best ideas are going to be agreed upon. There are more than enough ideas to be hashed out, and it also will preclude what's happening here in that we don't really make decisions. We're just kind of going forward, and it seems like everybody's okay with going forward even though we're not making decisions. If we feel like we have to make decisions and have to come to consensus and have to resolve every block, there's too many ideas. And time, for me, time is of the essence in planning this whole thing. Over.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nikki. Next we have Chris. Chris, go ahead. Your mic is on. Chris, are you ready for us? Okay, it sounds like Chris isn't quite ready yet. We'll go back to him, and let me go ahead and get to Delphine. Delphine, go ahead. Your mic is on.
Thank you. This is Delphine Brody from Sacramento. Cal, I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch everything you said, but I'm thinking that you were just giving a report back from the process work group, and I know I have been remiss in trying to weigh in on the direction for our decision-making process for these NatGat visioning calls in that group. But did I understand correctly, Cal, that you were saying we should just proceed using like a standard decision-making process from Occupy Wall Street and not try to modify it? Because I personally feel pretty strongly that we should work from values-based consensus. And I know that deciding to adopt values-based consensus is perhaps a major decision for this visioning group, and so I am fine with us putting that on a future agenda since it's not on this one. Well, it was, but it was taken off, and maybe we weren't ready for it. But could you clarify? Because I personally would like to see that addressed sooner rather than later.
Okay, your mic's on, Cal.
Well, and I may not be the only person who might comment on this. I want to say, first of all, I sent an email to Samumba, but I haven't received a response. And so if somebody has his current email address, because I have something from sometime mid last year that may not be correct, it may not even actually be a functioning address. So if you have his email address or his contact information, would you please send that to cal@interoccupy.net, because I know we wanted to invite him into the process working group. That was one thing. The second thing is that my understanding is we haven't reached consensus within our group to use a value-based consensus. I know that I saw one post where somebody seemed to object to values being at the core of it. I'm not quite sure about that. If that person's on the call, then he or she can speak. Put up a 4 if you haven't already. And so I don't know where we are with that, but I know that we're not ready to present a value-based consensus proposal yet, which I think is something we would be considering for the larger effort in the national gathering. The proposal that I'm talking about is just as a temporary interim process so we have a way to make decisions right now, because we do have to make decisions. We're going to have to make decisions over the next short number of weeks that affect whether we in fact have the gathering or have the gathering, things about the existence of the gathering and where the gathering and all that stuff. So for us to spend several weeks figuring that out, I don't think we can afford that. So yes, I'm proposing that we have a very slightly modified version of the OWS proposal just so we can make decisions until the process group can come back with a good proposal for this group to consider. That's the intention. And I'm bringing that myself, not as a representative of the process group. I'm bringing this as an autonomous person to this group just to get a temporary decision-making process in place. Check.
Okay, thank you very much, Cal. Let's see who else has their hand up. Sparrow, I see you have a comment. Chaz, let me turn on your mic. Are you going to speak for Sparrow? Your mic is on.
Hi. I haven't received any messages from her yet. I was trying to communicate via Facebook. If that doesn't work, Sparrow, you can message me on Twitter, which is a little more clunky, but I'm not receiving any messages. Check.
Okay. You had your hand up too. Did you have another comment?
That was a 2, I think, going along with Delphine on values-based consensus.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, Nikki, you've got to have direct response. And then Jackie.
The whole value-based consensus thing, I appreciate value-based consensus. This is my concern. And being the 99% going against the 1% which has implemented a systemic institutionalized basis of value-based, arbitrary, value-based reality that we are so allegedly trying to eliminate. We cannot be the change if we incorporate a value-based consensus or any kind of other arbitrarily value-based things. Do we all have similar values? Absolutely. But in order to have 99%, we got to be, when that block comes in and their values are so different, we have to say we are willing to give that one voice the space amongst the 99% and go on with the idea that he or she is on consensus with. I'm not saying that might be way too idealistic for this reality, but again, if you go to something like in terms of who's going to be on the stage, what programs are we going to do, I think it should be the winner gets it all. Whoever gets to consensus in a time-based frame and gets everybody onto the same ideas should win and get on, rather than, oh, well, we're excluding you because, you weren't at 5 meetings, and that's the value upon which we're doing it. It's kind of hard for me when we start getting into this value-based, those kinds of languages and definitions that nobody really knows the meaning of, except for in the little group that knows the meaning of all of them because you're using those same dialogues. It gets really, really convoluted and double talking when you're talking to somebody who knows nothing except for that the reality that we are in is value-based. And it's a wrong reality. There is so much broken in this reality that is based on value-based. And I'm done with value-based anything. But again, if, as Cal knows and people on the process committee knows, I will consent if this is how you guys want to proceed. Just know you're proceeding in the model of the 1%. That's all I'm saying. Over.
Hey, thank you, Nikki. Jackie, you've got a response. Go ahead.
Yeah, let me try and remember. I had wanted to address that that as Cal stated, we're talking about two different processes. One is for the decision making on this call for overall NatGat decisions, which is like a narrower thing, and then the long range NatGat process for how will we do things at the event, how will we be more inclusive, what will we use on the ground, which I think is going to take the process group a couple of months. The other thing I wanted to say, ironically, I had a conversation with an email in New York City with a lot of the OWS techs, and people are all over the place about consensus. So there people who say, no, trash it, junk it, use Robert's rules, and others that give various modifieds. The last thing I want to say is that shortly before the call, maybe an hour, Chip sent out an email that I thought was great, covered a lot of points, and the main point that probably should have come before this process is to define who we are. So I don't know if we're going to do that tonight, if we're going to table this and put it on, but, for the sake of making decisions, who are we? Which is a working group trying to form NatGat, in my opinion. Check.
Thank you, Jackie. Yes. If we don't get to that today, that sounds like something that should definitely go on the agenda very soon. Let's see. I want to Cal. Cal, go ahead. Your mic is on. Do you have some sort of a proposal you want to call for a temp check for, or how would you like to proceed?
Well, I want to make a point of process that my intention for bringing this was not to get into a back and forth about whether this process is better or that process is better. I just wanted to do, and maybe I just want to do it as a temp check, could we have a interim process just that allows us to make some of these basic decisions. We're not talking about the most earth-shattering decisions, but we have a bunch of small to moderate decisions to make over the coming weeks, and our agenda keeps getting longer. So the more efficient a decision-making process we have, I'm usually not in favor of efficiency because I think anytime efficiency trumps relationship, that we're also operating on a model of a 1%. But since it essentially was, was the decision that that OWS that started the Occupy movement had, I'm reasonably comfortable with going along with it. It's pretty close to consensus. So my intention was not to have a conversation about this, so because we could spend the rest of the call debating the merits of this process or that process or the other. I do think it's very important that we have a very careful consideration about that in the process group as we figure out what to propose to this group for what process to use at the gathering itself, because so far the gatherings have struggled with how to make decisions. There weren't any decisions made at all at the first gathering. The second gathering, I think, made one decision using the OWS process on the last day. But we want to be able, I think it's incumbent upon us to provide a way of people making decisions at assemblies at the gathering. So that was that point. There was one more point, which I just forgot. Give me 2 seconds. If I can't think of it, I'll yield. So I wanted to do a temp check on it before I have. Let me just see if there's any other comments. I would just request that we just not continue to debate the merits of one process or the other. It's just going to be, are we going to have this interim process in place, or are we going to continue doing what we do, which is something informal with the hands? Those seem to be the only two choices that make sense to do. Otherwise, we'll spend half the meeting on this. Check.
Absolutely. I'm just about to close stack on this. We currently have on stack Chris, M, Sharon, Donna, Sparrow. So I'm hoping maybe Chaz, you and Sparrow can connect. She's still on stack. And finally, we have Gandalf on stack, and I think I'm going to close stack after Gandalf. Okay, let me, Chris, I believe, was the first one up. So, Chris, go ahead. Your mic is on.
Hello. I'm sorry, my mute button was on earlier. That's all. We're spending a lot of time talking about process, and as Cal said, I agree, we're spending too much time. The working groups, in my opinion, the working groups will have their own process to make a decision, and we should allow that to happen. We should allow those working groups to come up with their own process for decision making. And with this phone call, you use that as a report back. We're the big group that we just, on the phone call, I look at this as we're the big group, making sure that everybody is held accountable for the actions that they're trying to accomplish in our groups. With a large group, you have different groups. We're going to have a media group, you're going to have a transportation group, you're going to have an activity group. I mean, whatever you want to call the groups, it doesn't matter. But those groups are going to have to make decisions also inside those groups. So discussing process to the large group is good, but we have a lot of small groups that are going to have to make decisions and report back to the large groups, and their process may be different than ours. Second, we keep talking about General Assemblies making a decision. GA, and most people that I know, a GA is a non-decision-making body. A GA cannot make a decision for everyone because everyone is not there to make that decision. It's just a place to open up ideas and direct people to places to go to work on projects, to work on their ideas, on their values. And in my opinion, that's part of the problem why you guys are not having any way to make a decision at any of the national gatherings is because it's impossible to make anyways. Not everybody's there. I yield.
Okay, thank you, Chris. You got quite a number of twos, people showing approval for what you said. Sharon, it looks like you changed your hand to a 2. So if you did still want to speak, go ahead and change it back to a 1. Otherwise, I'll honor that as a 2. Let's see. Next, we have Donna Parana. Donna, go ahead. Your mic is on.
Thank you. Hello. Yes, again, I just wanted to add comment on the point of process. Whenever we get into a discussion on how to agree, it just seems to take so much time. And I know down at Occupy San Diego, we spent months considering the consensus process. So for us to have to focus on that, I agree with everyone else that the method we've been using so far, I think, has been fine. I haven't seen a lot of people strongly objecting to using a system of pushing 2 to agree or 3 not to agree. I think the decisions we're making are simple enough to be able to do that. When people are speaking about a process being used now and then one to be used at NatGat, it reminded me of when we were organizing Occupy San Diego, and the organizers, of course, we made decisions about certain things, but then the first day of the occupation, when several thousand people showed up and marched with us, most of the people there had no idea what we had decided, and it didn't matter. Those were the people then. Everything changed. So we need to remind ourselves that everything will be organically changing. There's going to be constantly people coming in and out, differing groups and opinions as we move closer to the date. I did want to suggest, though, that I feel it's important in whatever we do that however people are connected with the Occupy National Gathering, that we are all reminded that the thing that brought us together were the principle of solidarity, first of all. That was consensus upon, I believe, the first night of OWS on September 17th, and agreed, and printed. But that was basically an agreement to unite, so to speak, in solidarity. Then on September 29th, the Declaration of the Occupation of New York City was published, and I think it would be important that we have people be reminded or to read again that document, which we all pretty much joined this occupation to stand in solidarity with. And I think that's very important. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Donna. I just wanted to remind folks about the time limit to try to keep this to a minute and a half if you can. We have lots of people on the call. Sparrow, I wanted to reach out to you. It was suggested if you could post what you want to say to the chat area of the agenda pad. If that's something you can do, go ahead and press number 2 on your keypad. If you can't do that, press number 3. While we're waiting to get that response from Sparrow, I believe we have Gandalf. So Gandalf, go ahead. Your mic is on.
This is Gandalf from Occupied Sacramento. I do believe that we're capable of using the General Assembly to make decisions. At least we certainly did in Sacramento over the last couple of years. But my real point was, if we have a process that we decide upon, I'd like it to be simple enough and direct enough to be explained in this phone call, that someone could say, okay, here is what we are agreeing upon to work for this conference called General Assembly, which it seems to me kind of a new age General Assembly that has to be tweaked and worked on in order to make it work. And I think it's going to evolve, but it should start from something where you don't say, well, go online and look at this and read that and we'll talk. I think it should be able to be explicated during the phone call so that everyone who's on the line can at least be party to the decision. Okay. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Gandalf. I've just gotten a message here from Emmanuel that says somebody is having trouble getting into the call. Jackie, could you go ahead and take Emmanuel into a private breakout and try to find out what the problem is? Thank you. Okay, I'd already closed the stack on this, so but I do see there are two people who wanted to speak. So very, very quickly, Sharon, did you have a comment? I see you pressed 5.
Yes, I was trying to let somebody know that Roberto Mendoza has been waiting to get in the call, and for some reason he's not able to. He's only hearing music.
Oh, thank you very much. I wonder if he's on the wrong call, because we turned our music off.
Okay, well, I gave him my conference PIN number just in case.
Okay, good. Well, then there should be 2 people showing up with your name here, if he used yours, and I don't see another one. Is that the same person that Emmanuel? I think Jackie and Emmanuel are going to talk about that, so hopefully they'll get that resolved.
Hey, Sharon, could you just say the name again really quickly, clearly, because I'm going to check to see about a PIN number for him.
Roberto Mendoza.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much, Sharon. I appreciate that. Okay, the absolute last person to speak on this topic will be Amanda.
Hello, guys. This is Amanda from Michigan. Am I understanding that the topic right now is to figure out and confirm the dates of 14th through the 17th, which was
not quite yet. We're about to get to that, so we're just finishing off our discussion about process. So thank you. Okay, Cal, go ahead and do you want to call for a temp check? I'll go ahead and clear the board. Go ahead and phrase your question.
Sure, and as I said, I think at this point all I want to do is temp check to see if we can use that process, and if not, we'll just continue using the informal process that we're using. I mean, there's not that much of a difference when you hear me lay it out. So the OWS process, basically the version we would use on the phone here, is essentially what we've been doing. It's just how we handle objections. That's the main difference. So we would then state what we're voting on, either a question or the proposal. There would be clarifying questions. It's just to make sure people understand what they're voting on, and then we would have a vote or a temp check. It's essentially on the phone. It's the same, because you press 2 if you're in favor, you press 3 if you're not in favor, you press 4 if you stand aside. And once we're actually into the voting phase, And if we have any objections, then we would deal with we would hear the objections, and then the group can decide relatively quickly whether it wants to table the thing so that objection can be dealt with by people who want to form a group. Typically what they would do is form a caucus, or if we could actually address the objection really quickly and either integrate what the person was saying into the proposal, or come up with a quick solution so that we could have full consensus, we would. If after a reasonable attempt, which I think in this group has to be fairly time-bounded, maybe to the next call, for example, we do not achieve consensus on the next go-around or something like that, we would then resort, as a last resort, to 90% supermajority. That's the proposal. That's the proposal I have. So I'll say it again, just to make sure everybody's clear on it. We would use the phone keypads, 2 for yes, 3 for no, 4 for stand aside. If there are any 3s, we would hear the 3s. If we could not integrate those objections in short order, that item probably would be tabled to the next meeting and handled offline in some way, and then we would try it again, and if we cannot achieve consensus in fairly short order, we would go to 90% supermajority as a last resort. So let's temp check that. If you want to use that for these calls until the process group has a better process, press 2. If you don't want us to use that and want us to continue just being informal and potentially having the process shift depending on who's facilitating, press 3. And if you stand aside, press 4.
Okay. Currently, let's see, we've got 10 3 3s and 2 4s, and some people not voting at all.
Yeah, let's get all these votes in. So
yeah.
Jennifer.
If you vote 4, that means you abstain.
Right, you're standing aside for one reason. So we have Jennifer, Carrie, Emmanuel, Stephen, Nicole, Esperanza, Scott, and Kathy, and Lou. We still need votes from you. I think the one thing that's important on these calls is that we do not consider if you don't vote, that means you're abstaining. That's not what we're doing. So please press a number, 2 for yes, 3 for no, 4 for stand aside. And if you don't press the number, we'll call on you to get your verbal. You'll just say the number. And Terry, we also don't have a vote from you. We now got the vote from Terry. So still remaining is Scott, Carrie, Esperanza, Emmanuel, and Carrie. Carrie's on there
Jennifer.
twice. One of them must be Dan. And Jennifer, yeah.
Carrie, I know Carrie is taking notes, so she may not be in a position to vote.
She's on there twice, so the other one might be Dan. I'm not sure.
Oh, yes, that's right. Okay, there's Carrie.
So, Emmanuel, I'm going to go ahead and hear from you. Emmanuel, what's your vote? 2, 3, or 4?
I'm asking what we're. Can you?
Sorry?
We lost Emmanuel's mic went off. I'm sorry, Emmanuel. Go ahead, Cal. You were talking to Emmanuel.
Okay, Emmanuel, did you vote 2, 3, or 4?
Can you clarify what we're voting on?
We're voting on whether to use the process I just outlined for making decisions on these calls as an interim measure.
Just for making decisions,
Yeah, for making decisions. Okay, we got Jennifer's vote. I'm going to open up Scott. No, we got Scott's vote. Sorry, it's Esperanza. Did you want to vote, Esperanza? Okay, great.
Esperanza has voted.
Well, yes, we've got Esperanza. Who is left? And Carrie's the only one, but she's taking notes. Well, Carrie, we can open up your mic and hear from you if you're too busy typing to switch. Would you vote 2, 3, or 4, Carrie?
That may be Dan.
Maybe Dan. All right, whoever is using Carrie's other. Yeah.
Okay, I think we just need you, Cal, and.
Me. Oh, yes, of course. I guess I didn't vote. So at this point, we have 5 people with the number 3 up. So that's clear enough that at this point I don't think it's going to carry. So what I'm going to do, and one of the reasons I was concerned about bringing this so quickly is because we haven't had a chance to look at this in writing. So what I'm going to do is write it up, put it out to the list, to our NGE list, and then we can discuss it over the list and bring it back next week. Meanwhile, the process working group can continue to discuss it, and we'll see. Maybe we'll bring a different proposal by then. But I would like to not spend any more time on this because with 5 people voting 3, that's sufficient to me that it's not going to carry in short order. So I'm going to withdraw it at this point. Check.
Okay. Okay, the proposal has been withdrawn. Cal, did you want it on next week's agenda then? Cal?
Yeah, let's put it on next week's agenda, yes. And whoever's taking notes, record that I'm going to send the proposal out in writing to the list, and everybody can see it, including the people who are not on the call tonight. Because there may have, I know there have been, I've been hearing transmission problems on the phone with people having unclear sound, and so I might be affected by that. You might not be hearing me clearly as well either on this call for some reason. So let me get it out in writing, and we have a week to consider it. Meanwhile, we'll press on. Check.
Okay, great. Let's see if we have any more comments. Amanda, did you have another comment?
I did. Can we add to that process or change that maybe a little to deal with people that aren't responding on the phone calls to make them add a stand aside, the 4 check?
Cal, would you like to respond to that?
I would, thank you. I think that basically that can be brought up on the list because it's a discussion forum. Once I put it out, then I would invite you to bring that to the list and we can consider it. I've always been uncomfortable about people who are absent from assemblies and absent from calls not being able to participate, so I'm really glad that you brought that up, and I really very much appreciate it. Thank you. Check.
Okay, all right, great, thank you. Let's move on to our next item of business, which is to try to officially set up once and for all what the dates of the NatGat are going to be. Stephen Payen had a proposal, and I apologize because it's been brought to my attention that Gandalf has a direct response. Why can I not find Gandalf on here? I don't see his hand up. His hand just went up. Gandalf, go ahead.
My question is answered. Moving on.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Gandalf. Okay, Stephen Payen has a proposal regarding the dates, so I'm going to go ahead and turn the mic over to him. Stephen, go ahead and talk about your dates.
All right, so in California, a lot of us are having, for some of the Native communities to participate in the Occupy National Gathering. Some dates are conflicting due to a few different ceremonies that are around, and then also, going back to square one, and then this also falls back on the previous question of how do we vote. It was never on the agenda for the actual changing of the date, because like originally when we were asked to help organize the national gathering, Willie Underbaggage, myself, and the Brown Berets and a few others were in agreement that, yeah, we can host the date on August 14th through the 17th. Then it was motioned, I guess accidentally, by Andy Kahn, because we had a miscommunication about locking the dates. So he also announced this on the Facebook page that it was his mistake, and it is also my mistake too, because we didn't have this consensus voting process. And I don't know, there's just a lot of stuff like that is popping up that even made this decision feel rushed. He wanted to lock back to square one again. So Andy wanted to lock a date that people could make it to, and then so we got into communication of like we need to find dates that people can't make it to, so we can at least know what dates we shouldn't put it on there. And then he motioned for a date that we can agree to, rather than dates that we could select, because we needed to move forward. So with that,
I guess you can say, this lack of organization, because we don't have a consensus, we don't have any type of deal. Like it got rushed through, and then we as the voting body, and I was actually out of the conference call at that time because I go to work at 6 p.m. So I wasn't available to have a vote during the motion of changing the date. So the date got changed to the 7th through the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 7th through the 11th, which shifted a lot of pre-planning that we were getting together. And a little bit more background from the last national gathering. Willie was trying to get more of a bridge with indigenous groups and people of color involved. So he came to our group because Occupy Sacramento, like, we're really diverse. We address a plethora of issues, people of color, and a lot of the stuff that people are criticizing Occupy doesn't address. So we try to explore the whole gamut, making sure that the quote-unquote 99% at least has some representation. But so back to square one again. This date conflicts with a ceremony of the Winnemem Wintoon Native people that actually reside on this land. So it's a fire and water ceremony. They have it on their river. They're fighting a big battle of even being able to have that ceremony. So we were also requested to either do security and participate within that. And then the chief said that she agreed to the dates of the August 14th through the 17th, that she can be there and help out to bring Idle No More together within this area and be a keynote speaker. And complexities of this conference doesn't allow for us to have clear transparency with even people that we're working with. We want to get Cornel West and a few other people, but all this chaos within the organizing process, people on the Facebook going at it, and then people saying they're going to threat to boycott or threat to pull out and all this in-house fighting, it's really hard to package anything to anybody about this being even having remotely any consensus of what we should do as a gathering. So it brings us back to, we just wanted to have a gathering where people could make it, and nothing was binding. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, I like when people were talking about that General Assemblies, it's just to gather people together to actually vote to get people to where they need to be, because I'm having a real frustration with trying to say what I need to say, like, appropriately, because I don't want to, like, upset or stir up anybody, but it's impossible for us to get the 99% to agree on anything. So it's important for us to get people that are there that want to be in solidarity with issues, in solidarity with Occupy Wall Street movement, for us to progress forward. So that's all we really wanted to do, is bring more people of color, bring indigenous groups together, and start focusing on what we can do as people to wake the 99% up to the next generation, because it's the next generation that's going to bear the burden of consequences. And so with that, Willie and us, we wanted to see how we can further building these bridges between Occupy movement, Idle No More, March Against Monsanto, and so many different movements that have these common solidarities throughout their messages, so we can gather for an international gathering and where Willie's reservation's at, where the Lakotas are living at, like an international gathering, so we can start building these bridges to really have a trajectory of what are we really trying to do with this movement, because it's turning into a protest movement, and judging by the conference calls, it's turning into a bureaucracy movement of how can we get to talk to each other. And then in reality, as a whole national gathering, anything that we vote for, if there's like 100 of us, is still not a consensus. It may be a consensus of the organizers that are there, but it can't, and I don't think it could ever represent the 99%. So it's just important for people in solidarity at this conference to be aware that this is based on an individual collaborating with multiple individuals, collaborating with different movements to focus on how can we build the solidarity to achieve the goals that that people are agreeing to, so we can move forward, because we're never going to have a consensus at an Occupy national gathering, and we can't even have a consensus as a country unless we shut it down and started doing like revolution type stuff. That was the kind of like, I don't want to say too much, but I'm just saying that it's important for us to lock down dates that we can get stuff done and build these bridges between our different people from the four directions, like of what walks of life, just as much as we can address these issues to where it doesn't feel like groups are excluded, but more that groups are welcome and included. But okay, I think I said too much, but if there's anybody got a direct response, I can answer questions.
Okay. Yes, we have many direct responses. Let's see. I think Cal probably had his hand up first. Cal, go ahead.
Yes. So, Stephen, I was one of the people. There were a number of us who, were listening to the conversations over the last couple of weeks, and in part because Willie Underbaggage was talking about the full moon, which is actually on the 10th. It seemed like I heard some passion in his voice, and I imagine some others did too for that, and partly because we wanted to give as wide a berth as possible from the S17 event. There was a decision made either last week or the week before by the people in this group to have it on the 7th through the 10th. Before that, there was a proposal which passed to have the group from Sacramento and come up with a series of dates and places and bring them back to this group so that we could actually decide on them. And I think that's essentially, we decided last time, or whenever we made that vote, to just make a decision on the dates first before the venue. And so based on Willie Underbagge's availability for either weekend, his seeming passion for the full moon, and the desire to get it as far away from S17, we got consensus on this call to have it on the 7th through the 10th. So I'm not sure what further confusion is about, but I'm just reporting that's what I remember happening over the last couple of calls. Check.
Okay, thank you. Next we have Chip. Go ahead, Chip. Your mic is on.
Okay. On that, I think there was some confusion about him talking about the 10th because that was the time that he would be preoccupied. While that decision was being made, I tried to text him because his battery on his phone had run down earlier and he had left the call. Unfortunately, he didn't get back to me in time to give any feedback about that switch in the dates, and he has since acknowledged he'll try to do what he can, but he might not be able to make it during that because he has other commitments, as do a lot of other indigenous peoples. So the dates that were originally floated, the 14th through the 17th, is pretty much what they had penciled in to, that fit in with their schedule at that time. As far as the 99%, I think fixation on that will not get us anywhere, because what is that based on? Only a single factor, and that's the wealth or the income spread. When it comes to other factors of what makes up culture, what makes the variety, the diversity in that, there is no 99% of that. We're all related, but we're all different colors, varieties. Just so you look at the variety in nature, and so to try and define everybody as being all vanilla, 99% all the same on all issues is not reality. And when it comes down to other issues, other than even that one issue about the economic disparity, to try and stereotype all of the people as being 99%, it's not reality-based. So I think we have to come to another form of how we look upon our relationships and our appreciation for one another. And on that, I was speaking over I've got a little talking circle that I've got going with a lot of indigenous leaders around North America. And one of them happened to be, I noticed on his Facebook that he showed up out in Sacramento. He's really from Six Nations, but now he's temporarily, he splits. He's a snowbird, so he goes out to Sacramento for 7 or 8 months, and then he's back at Six Nations. And we talked about that, about even organizing at the national level, and his counsel to me was it can't be done because the best way that it should be done is you organize at the local or regional level, because you have more common interest and you can do things better. When you try to scale it to national and then try to have everybody agree at that level, it becomes much more difficult to even have discussions. We have 30 people on the phone last week, and it was a quagmire. So coming to using consensus decision-making, from what I read on it, it says that's pretty much limited to close relationships. It might scale up to 500 or 3,000 people to deal at that level, but when you try to scale it to something much larger, it becomes a very cumbersome mechanism to try and deal with.
Okay, Chip, I'm thank you. Yeah, I'm going to have to cut you off. I don't think we've given up on finding consensus on the dates. There's still many options that we can talk about. Chris, go ahead. Your mic is on. Chris Staney? Yes, your mic is on.
Hi. Okay, hi everybody. Chris Staney. I'm with Occupy Naperville in Chicago, Illinois. And I wanted to address a few things, and I will try and slow down because I'm a little frustrated tonight. I am one of the people that actually stated on Facebook that we would probably be pulling out, and the reason why I stated that is because we just can't make the dates here in Illinois. I'm a student, and I work at the school at a community college, and August 19th, Western Illinois University school goes back to school. August 16th, Southwestern Illinois schools go back. Northern Illinois University goes back on the 26th, but they move in the week prior to the 14th through the 17th. So I know that I was trying to push for the 7th through the 11th, just because I personally would have to drive from Illinois to get down to the gathering. I don't want to be disrespectful to anyone or any of the other people that we are inviting to this. I just want you guys to know that us students and us teachers, more important that the students are our future, and the conflict with these dates, it doesn't help our future with our students that want to come to this and show their support and push forward and break the ties that we are having with the craziness that's going on in this world right now. It's too much. And one of the other reasons why I really wholeheartedly really want to pull out of this is the bickering back and forth on Facebook. I have not posted anything more, but I really don't agree with the swearing. And if we're supposed to be a group of loving and compassionate and caring individuals, swearing is unacceptable to me. And we don't do it in our group, and if I'm invited to another group, I don't want it to be part of the group that I'm going to be invited or going to be working with. And one last thing, and then I will be done. I appreciate everything that everybody does. I don't always get on these calls until this late at night because I'm racing home from school to get on these calls. So I know how it is to organize and to try and get everyone on the same page. It just doesn't work. I just want you to just consider that our students are our future, and a lot of the Midwest people and our group, Occupy Naperville, if you guys change the dates the 14th to the 17th, we will not be able to make it. Our hearts and souls will be there, and we support all of it, but we won't be able to attend. So I yield. Check.
Okay, thank you, Chris. I saw several people put their hands up to show approval. A couple more people on the call will be Kathy and then Chris M. I thought it was very interesting when Stephen spoke about the various tribes that he wanted to include. I saw lots of Twinkle's hands go up. And when Chris just spoke about wanting to include students and how the 14th through the 17th might exclude a lot of students, I also saw a lot of approval for that. So I hope we can think outside the box, maybe July dates, so we can include Indigenous people and students. I yield, and the mic to Kathy. Kathy, go ahead.
Oh, hi. Okay. Yeah, that was what I was going to ask. Is there any week in July that we can switch it to and then avoid both the conflicts? So, let's say the week of the 13th that would be that right in the middle of July. I yield.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's see who we have now. Chris M. is going to be followed by Cal. Chris, go ahead. You have the mic.
Yeah, I agree that we have to actually, it's Sacramento in August. If you try to do it there in August, that's craziness. It's 112, 110 the entire time. Anybody that tries to bring an animal, anybody that brings a pet, their pet is going to be suffering big time. This should be trying to get towards July for the date. That's the only logical planning. And in order to do that, the bickering has to stop. Yeah. Whoever was talking to a couple people before me that was being sworn at and stuff, I'm very sorry for anybody that did that to you. That is not values that I appreciate one bit. That's not values of the world that we're trying to create. And that goes back to the values-based consensus. But I'm sorry for that. People that try to bicker, people that try to cause conflict, if they're in a planning group, that is counterproductive. That is not showing solidarity. We don't bicker. We don't have temper tantrums. That's not acceptable. The best thing to do would be we're looking for a date for July because it seems that everybody for August is conflicted with dates, and we have the Native Americans have a lot of other plans going on that are very important to them that we should honor and appreciate, and they're doing, and respect, and we should look for July, in my opinion. I yield.
Okay, thank you. We've got Cal and then Jackie. Cal, go ahead.
So I remember William Underbaggage very distinctly saying that he could not make it any earlier than the second week of August when we were first talking about those dates. So if we do anything prior to the weekend of the 7th through 10th, and we're still not sure he can make it then, it sounds like, but he definitely cannot make it because he's going to be on the road through the entire time, as far as I know, from starting on the first available weekend after July 4th all the way through up to sometime in the second week of August. Now, he said himself, you know, he's just one man, but I know there's been a lot of people who wanted him to be there. I'm not offering an opinion one way or the other. I'm just transmitting information that he's not available prior to the second weekend in August, the earlier one that we considered the 7th through the 10th. Check.
Okay, all right. Let me see if we have any other responses. We have Jackie. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I might have missed a little because I was off in a breakout, but I just wanted to say it's been my opinion right along that Occupy Sacramento should have, wide berths to go ahead and choose the date. I mean, they can come back and everybody agree on it, but they're dealing with the stuff on the ground. They know the venues. They know what local people will be affected. So that's my 2 cents. I think Sacramento should be the decider.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. That's one way to look at it, although we're only a small group of a few people. I'd like to just open up Stephen Payan's mic and ask about availability of Chief Kayleen as well as Willie Underbaggage availability. So could you let us know about those? Because I know that's
yeah,
Chief Kayleen is having a local Idle No More.
All right, am I mic on? Hello?
Yes, you're on.
All right, Chief Sisk says she could be there July 10th through the 13th. Willie clicked the second day. Just for people who are unaware, I put a voting poll out there for people who could make it on what dates. It wasn't really utilized other than dates 14th through the 17th, but there was still not a large number. It was 3, 4, 5, 6. There was only 6 people that voted for it to be on the original proposed date. And then there was 3 on July 2nd through the 6th, and 3 on July 9th through the 13th, but Willie didn't click on that one. But that's the date that the chief said that she could be able to make it here. And I really wish I had the opportunity to lock dates available to actually go to the cities themselves and see which organizations or like Occupies are still functioning towards this movement, so we can try to get them there to physically do work. Just some direct responding back to some of the direct responses. Willie said the second brother that spoke said that was right. He said that Willie would try to make it. It's 3 days after Sundance, and for people who know about Sundance, they fast for the 4 days they're there, and there's a lot of draining ceremonial stuff that happens to people's energy, so they need to rest. So he doesn't know if he'd be able to be well rested as well as come back. And I know a few of our members are going to be over there, and possibly myself, to help out with this. And then again, it's in confliction with another ceremony that's going over here. But the first, how many? Yeah, and I don't really want to conflict with Naperville. I think they should be able to be there and bring as many students as they can. And if and then what they said about the temperature, that was my biggest concern with it being proposed in August, that everybody is potentially liable for heat stroke. I mean, if we're going to be doing it out in the open and there's not a lot of trees, I mean, a lot of these venues that are parks, they don't have a lot of trees to accommodate for 1,000 people. I mean, the only closest thing we had was the park that can't be overnight. I really wanted it to have like at a university or something, but we couldn't find any dates that had 4 blocks open. We had a few 3-date blocks open at Sac State, but that was in September. Everything's booked. I mean, we got like 6 months to book a venue. It's going to be dang near impossible. If in July, it might be a little bit, but that's still a smaller window of opportunity to try to lock something down. I prefer it to be in July. It may be smaller, but the heat may be better, or the temperature may be better. And I don't know if people can actually start polling to see if they can do any dates in July. It would be awesome, or any dates in August. Then we can try to work. We can try to maximize as many people as we can get to go there from a different. I don't know however people want to vote on moving this forward, because we can't not lose people. No matter where we go, we're going to lose somebody. I imagine there's summer school somewhere in July. So I don't know how many organizers we're going to lose in July. So, but I yield.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I think after we finish STAC, we'll just go ahead and have a temp check on some days, perhaps some July days. Couple people on STAC. I've got a direct response from Kathy, and then I have Chip and Emmanuel. Kathy, go ahead.
Okay. Well, actually, Stephen answered that kind of. I was going to ask if Willie has any dates that he's open in July at all, but then Stephen said he's going to be checking on that, so my direct response was answered. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next up is Chip. Go ahead, Chip.
Okay, my question that just came up is he said that there are several 3-day blocks available. What if we look at that option is to have 3 days inside and then the 4th day and then some outside venue that's nearby? Check.
Thank you. Yes, that's an option to look at. Okay, now we've got Emmanuel. Emmanuel, go ahead.
Go ahead. This is kind of back on another topic that you guys were talking about, but I just didn't. Was wondering if someone could explain what a value-based consensus was, because I'm not clear on what that is.
I think we'd have to do that at the end of the call, because we're right in the middle of a discussion about the dates right now. But I think we definitely could have somebody explain that a little bit later. Okay, would anybody else like to offer a comment about dates? I see Chris M. has a hand up. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I hit the button on accident. But if you want to throw me in a private conference with the person that talked before, I'll explain value-based to them right now, because the dates don't matter. I'm available anytime.
Oh, okay. Of course, we don't know if they
I'll
are.
yield.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll yield.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a great offer. Thank you. But I think I'll keep you and Emmanuel, because Emmanuel might want to vote on the dates. Okay, let me see if there's anybody else who would like to speak. It looks like Tricia has her hand up. Tricia.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome.
Hi. I want to just give you some, institutional stuff about the first national gathering. We had it from June 30th to July 4th, and July 4th was the last day, and it was really, really fun and cool, and it was hot, but I don't think it's going to be as hot in Sacramento in August. I think we really have to keep that in mind and try to make it a pleasant event for all. So I just wanted to let you know that was I think we can do it. I think as soon as we get the date set and it makes sense to everyone, if it's July 30th to June 30th to July 4th, it's something we did in Philly in the first one. Check.
Okay, that does sound like a lot of fun, Tricia. My concern would be, will it be really hard to get a venue around the 4th? Did you have I put your mic back on, Tricia. Did you have any problems getting venues so close to the 4th of July?
No, actually, because everybody's off with their families, and even in Philadelphia, it was not that many people here. I think people, go off and do their own thing, and it was a great way to spend a holiday with people that we, really grew to love. Check.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, Jackie, go ahead. Jackie.
Oh, sorry. Yep, I just want to throw in on top of what Tricia was saying was as far as venues, Philadelphia, we were still coming right off the evictions, and they voted in advance to not, just to have it in a park, and to say this is our right of public speech and not pay any fees or anything. As happened, a couple of different law enforcement, I guess the city and the Parks Department and stuff came and disrupted that. And rather than there being trouble, somebody autonomously went and did pay the permit for Franklin Square, I think it's called, park. And that made all the difference in the world. Just having someplace that you knew you could be without, the police coming in and harassing you and all that. So we kind of did both last year. We said we were just going to go to Upjohn, but then we tried to pay for a permit. So it's really sort of whatever is decided this year. Check.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. Got a couple more comments about this. Go ahead, Donna.
Hi, everyone. Just like Chris mentioned, I'll be there whenever everyone decides. Just in terms of thinking outside the box, though, I have two suggestions. And I don't mean for these to complicate anything, but they're just ideas. One would be considering even before 4th of July. Now, I realize that gives less time to plan, but it would be cooler, and I would think that arranging something the weekend maybe before the 4th of July weekend might be easier to find a venue. I'm not sure, but it also would be cooler. I'm not sure if people want to go that far. It's like 2 months earlier almost than we initially planned, so Occupy Sacramento would need to basically decide whether they would be, that would be an option. The other option, second option, is considering having Occupy Sacramento continue to host it, but possibly involve a nearby city with an Occupy that might have an easier time of pulling all this together as a team. Like, I don't know what places are really close, like maybe Fresno or some other group around there. I know Occupy Oakland declined, but those are just two ideas. I yield. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, I don't see that we have any other responses to this. It seems like we have dates all over the place. So what I'm going to propose is that we do a negative poll. I want to find out what dates people can't make. I think that that would probably be good to just see what dates are really going to be bad. Before that, though, I see Stephen, did you have a comment? No. Okay. All right. Cal, you pressed number 5 on your keypad. Cal?
Yes, if you're going to, can you hear me?
Barely.
I was talking at the speaker. So can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great, thank you. So I said if you're going to go the route of the negative poll of trying to find out what dates people can't make, my suggestion is that when you put up your hand to say you can or can't make it, that it's really, in my opinion, it's less, everybody can vote whatever way they want to, but I want to strongly encourage people to vote less about whether from the personal place, can you make it, but what's actually going to be best for the gathering? How are we going to get the most number of people? How are we going to get the most diverse crowd there? So, what dates are going to give us that? I think the dates that serve the gathering most, which is one of the reasons I was advocating it not having it too late in August, because I thought as it gets too close to S17, we'll have many occupiers who won't come. So I'm encouraging us to vote not based on the personal availability, but based on the availability of the largest thing that's best for the movement. Check.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and I think a part of that will be, I'm going to, before we vote, I'm going to check with Stephen Payan and find out specifically when Indigenous people are available. Chip, go ahead.
Well, I was going to suggest something along that line because he mentioned about he had a lot of 3-day venues that could be possible. So my suggestion would be, why don't we table this, give him till next week to come back and make suggestions about what he has from July 1st to August 20th or whatever, and also within that include some information about how that will impact the indigenous groups and so forth. And so for us to do what Cal said, vote for what's good of the people, we don't have enough information to do that yet. So I think if we could get that and put it on the list so we can have a chance to look at it about the different date options and the impact it would have on various groups. So check.
Okay, thank you. I'm seeing a lot of 2s for that idea, five of them, in fact. So one thing I did want to say is I assume now that August is off of our radar altogether, because that seemed like that was going to let out a lot of the students in the Midwest. If anybody has any objections to that or wants to talk about that, go ahead and press number 1 on your keypad. Cal, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to hear Chris clarify that, because what I thought I heard her say was that from the middle of August on it was going to be difficult for students, but I didn't know if that precluded, if she could clarify that. The first and second weekend seemed to me that probably won't conflict with it. So I'm not sure we're removing all of August. I just want to be clear on that. Check.
Oh, thank you. You're absolutely right. Let's clarify that. Chris, go ahead. Your mic is on.
Hi. Okay, hi everybody again. I was trying to do everything as I'm still trying to listen here. I know that what is going on, it's August. With our students and our teachers, we go back the week of the 16th. So the reason why I was saying that the 14th to the 17th cannot work for us in the Midwest and Occupy Naperville is because all of our teachers and all of our students, we start back in the school on the 17th. So, the week before, we've got students moving back into their college dorms and all of that fun stuff. And then someone also was asking clarification on summer classes. Our summer classes end, if anyone is taking summer classes, August the 7th. So, I mean, now you're grasping at straws, So I'll do whatever. But I just know that the 10th through the 14th really worked, or the 7th through the 11th worked the best for us. I know that a bunch of us could not come out the 14th through the 17th, and I did do some verification on schools in our area and have talked to students, and they all go back to school that week too. So that's hopefully answers Cal's question. Thank you, Chuck.
Okay, thank you. Well, at least we're narrowing the scope a little bit. A couple more people I have on stack. I'm going to put out the last call to go ahead and get on stack. Press number 1 on your keypad. Otherwise, I am going to close stack. We do have Chip and Sparrow on stack right now. So, Chip, go ahead. Your mic is on.
Again, I would suggest not assuming that August should be just taken off because it impacts different people different ways. I just think it should be left on to the spread list from July to August 17th, if that be, and that be included just for consideration and not to just take it off the table and say we're not even going to consider, those dates. I think that would not be appropriate to just eliminate that from the discussion.
Okay, thank you, Chip. Last we have Sparrow and then Kathy. Nope, I'm sorry, we just have Sparrow and Chaz. I'm going to turn your mic on. Are you and Sparrow able to communicate at all?
Yeah, we've been posting things to the to the Titan account. Yeah, she just wanted to propose on this topic that it is clear that there is not a date or location available. I propose that planning continue and proposal for dates and locale be committed to the next meeting.
Excellent. Sounds like that's what we're. Thank you. Sounds like that's what we're going to do. Cal, go ahead. Your mic is on. And then we'll have Tricia.
Hi, sorry I didn't say this before. I forgot. So I could, once we get some more clarity from Chip, I could put out a doodle to the group, and so people who are not on the call could participate with each of the weekends, and we could have at the top of the doodle the list of dates that the various Indigenous folks can and can't make, so that we could actually do this scheduling survey rather than just the people who happen to be on this call. That would be my suggestion, that we just table this entirely until next week, and we have a doodle running as soon as Chip can get me the information. That would be, I'm offering to do that. Check. And for those of you who don't know, I'm sorry, what a doodle is a scheduling survey where you basically say all the dates that you want to pick, and you say ones you don't want to pick. So everybody gets to see how everybody else is voting. Check.
Okay. Yes, I've used a lot of doodle polls. They're a great way to find out what works best for a variety of people. Would it be sent through email? Or is it something we could put on one of the Titan pads, or what's the best way to do this?
Oh, to doodle?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would set it up and then send the link out, and you just follow the link in your browser. That could be posted in wherever places it needs to be posted, wherever announcements and things like that relate to national. Whatever this group or this group plus the people who are not on the call from this group gather, which would be the list.
Okay. Yeah, I want to make sure that
Facebook page.
So it could be, and I see Jackie's suggesting it. Yes, it could be sent out both by email and Facebook.
Right, and Jackie, I just get it to Jackie, and Jackie knows all the places it could go. So she'll probably look for it for an email a post from Jackie in the Facebook page and wherever else it needs to be. I think the admins have got that covered. Check.
Okay. I do have 2 more people on stack. And then I wanted to pose a question about the doodle, just to make sure everybody would have access to that. So, Tricia, go ahead. And Chip, you'll be after Tricia.
I propose making a working group to research the dates, 5 or 6 people, to come up with, to research the make the doodles, research the different people that we need to be there, and then come with the recommendation next week. I don't think using our national time to do this, is the best use of this call. And if we can to do that, and there's also a digital divide because some people are not involved because they don't have computers or whatever. So I think we want to have a group just really work on this. If somebody wants to chew on it with Stephen and the people on the ground, then we could get something that we can give to the city. But this is going to go on, and there's just, because our group is so big, I mean, this is the whole nation. So I would like to see, I propose a working group started and come with a proposal next week. Check.
Okay, we've got a proposal for a working group. Chip, go ahead.
Okay, Cal mentioned my name a couple times, and I think he might have been talking about Stephen, because that's the information on the ground. He's the one that has that about the venues and that, because I think that's what it would be based on, is when they have these 3 or 4 day blocks available in his area. So that would be the resource there. And, of course, he's also had a lot of the communication with various groups over those times. So just that he should be looking probably to Stephen and not me.
Okay, all right, get that clarification. Okay, if we could have all the hands down. Stephen, you've got number 5 pressed on your keypad.
Yeah, it is a technical problem, not in a sense of the conference call. Okay, so we had 2 of our major organizers that are on logistics leave due to the endless amount of in-house fighting, and they were very vital to progressing this stuff. So I'm going to have to recommunicate with them and give them all these attaboy for doing what you're doing. There are 2 guys. There's Andy Kahn and Bob Saunders that left. Bob has other technical reasons, too, because he's caught up in court issues. But I will do my best to get them back on the team when it comes to just locking down a venue, because all 3 of us were going to different places and getting all these stuff together. And Andy still has a lot of information which he will gracefully turn over to anybody, not just me. But even if people want to research and do calls on their own too, because I can't get everything that's all over Sacramento area, because there's a lot of venues. I was even looking at this abandoned mall that was in south of Sacramento that was like halfway built, and due because of the economic crisis, and it got halfway done. So there's potentially, if we can get permits for it, it would be an awesome place for a gathering. But we'll be in the middle of nowhere though. But that's not bad at all. But unless you want to do direct actions. But anyways, long story short, if people are not opposed to venue hopping, I can try to see if anything is available, and I could try to do some outreach for more Sacramento people to help out with this, which is I have to be doing anyways. But if there's no objection to venue hopping, I can probably lock down a big venue for a big space. We don't have to keep the. I'll leave it open. But I'll do my best to get more people involved and to just lock dates, whatever needs to be. So I really want to just move this forward, and I want to make sure that we're at the very least able to control temperatures or have shade. We need at least shade. In August, if you don't have shade, you're going to die. Especially if you have no melanin or 0 to low melanin. But so bring sunblock. Just throwing it out there.
Oh, Stephen, I've gotten a question from somebody who wants to know what do you mean by venue hopping?
Oh, so if we're available to lock a great venue at a state university for a massive gathering, say we got a prestigious speaker, and then we got a band that would help raise some funds or whatever for whatever reason, or at least bring people in to where we have a really healthy day where there's a lot of people. If we're willing to transfer to example Sac State, if we were at a park, just so we can accommodate. I don't know, because someone said that because I had a space for 3 days at Sac State. I can't remember which day it was. It conflicted though, because it only had 3 days open. But if we were available to be at a park, a big venue, I say move forward if we can. But then we'd have to get buses involved, and it's just a minor technical thing, but it's doable.
Okay, great. Thank you, Stephen. Yes, it does sound doable. Kathy, go ahead. You've got a direct response.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify something. Stephen said a couple of times that there is a great amount of in-house fighting here, and there isn't. We're not fighting with each other. There's some people are aggravated for other reasons, but everything's cool with us here in Occupy Sacramento. We're not fighting with each other, honest. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Kathy, for protecting our reputation. Let's see, we've got Stephen with a. Stephen, you had a direct response?
Yeah, no. Occupy Sacramento is not fighting. Just if I said that, it was meant towards just. Well, I wouldn't even say anybody's really fighting. Just people have a really strong choice of words on the Occupy visioning group. I mean, that everyone's participating in. Everybody was really scared of the boycott and what that would do, and that just put everybody up in a stir. And then people saying that they'd pull out, and then everyone that's been participating in the group. It's been a blessing and a curse at the same time. So, but let's just try to move this forward peacefully as possible. And yeah, even if I have to pull out for some reason, I'm not gonna hold it against anybody. I mean, I will do my best I will personally do my best to progress this thing forward, as if I was gonna. Everybody feels the same way about it. I promoted the other ones, and we even pushed Occupy Sacramento people to go to the national gatherings, even though a lot of us couldn't go. So we're in solidarity, and solidarity means work. So,
okay, all right. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Stephen. I have a message here. If anybody's having technical difficulties, please press number 5 on your keypad. So I don't know if Sharon, we saw some 5s and some mutes. So if you're having some problems getting through, please press number 5. Okay, I'm going to close stack on this issue. I think we've talked enough. It sounds like we have 2 proposals. We have a proposal from Cal to send out a doodle poll. First, before we vote on that, I just want to have a temp check. Is there anybody who doesn't have access to email or Facebook who would have trouble getting a doodle poll? Good. I don't see anyone. Is Delphine? Go ahead.
Yes, excuse me. I just have a direct response to several comments that were made. First of all, the characterization that all is peaceful within Occupy Sacramento, I have to disagree with. I'm not going to get into details here, but there is bullying happening within Occupy Sacramento that I have experienced directly. And second of all, in terms of the boycott being brought up as a reason to explain why people are leaving this process, and I disagree with the characterization that the boycott is dividing the group. I think that people have a choice on how they respond to the issues that the boycott arose around last year, and that is really a deciding factor for why people can and should stay involved or choose to leave. But for people to simply blame the last year's boycott team for their choice to leave a NetGAT planning process is unfair.
Okay, thank you, Delphine. That might fit more in a different category, but I know you were responding to something that Kathy said. Okay, Tricia, go ahead. Your mic is on.
Yeah, I think Facebook is a problem, and that Facebook Visioning group is a page has had some toxicity in it, which is uncontrolled. There's I don't know who the moderator is, but there was some random ugliness that can happen on Facebook. And people get their jolly, not jollies, but people get kind of excited and riled up and they follow it, and it's just not healthy for the planning process. So I would hope that the working groups would get empowered to make decisions and use these calls for report backs, because for deciding people and trying to inform everybody about all the decisions is really hard. So if we had less Facebooking and more work grouping and then reporting, then we'll all get a little more excited about what we're doing instead of trying to figure out each other, which is going to be impossible. We're just going to try to get together face to face and see if we can pull this off. We can't really reform Occupy, between now and then. It's morphing right now, but we want to be ready with a good plan, and so working groups can do that. Check.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Tricia. One thing I want to ask, it sounds like email would be a good way to send out this doodle poll. Is there anybody, I want to make sure everybody is on the email list. Is there anybody who would object to being part of an email list to receive this poll if they aren't already on one of the NatGat email lists? I don't see anybody putting their hand up to address that. So, Jackie, can you do screenshots or whatever you'd like to do? And Cal has a response. Cal, okay.
Well,
Mike is
I was
on.
thinking that.
Have I stepped over a line?
I was thinking that we need to do opt-in for that. I think it's an InterOccupy policy that we don't put people on lists unless they specifically say they want to be on it. So, and because of the technical problems of people their votes not being recorded and things like that, it's too risky. So I'd rather you say if you're not on the list already and you want to be on the list, put up a number. That would make me feel, as an InterOccupy person, I would feel that's more respectful of people's desires. Check.
Okay, that would be fine. Okay, if you are not already on the InterOccupy email list and you would like to be included in the InterOccupy email list, please press number 2 on your keypad.
And what we're talking about here, just to be clear, is the National Gathering Planning Group. This is the group that this call is a parallel for. So this would be the main National Gathering Planning list, discussion list. Check.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. So anybody not on it, please press number 2. And Jackie, can you go ahead and capture their names so we can add them to the email list? I'll give another few seconds for people to press 2 if you are not already on that list. So you will be able to vote on the dates. Okay. Go ahead, Kathy. If you can do a screen print, you can. That's probably the way that I would do this. Just do a screen print and save all of the names. You can see their names and who has a 2 next to their names. Okay, great. All right. Now let's go ahead and clear the board. The next question we have in front of us is the one that Tricia proposed, would be having a work group to investigate setting dates. Does anybody have any comments about that before we call for a vote? I see. Let's see. Sparrow has her hand up. So if Chaz, I'll go ahead and call on you. If you can go ahead and let me know what Sparrow has to say. Chaz, go ahead. Your mic is on.
I have not received anything. Let me just come back to me after 2 more responses or something. I'll see.
Certainly. Just go ahead and put your hand up when you're ready.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. She just said she proposes to plan and continue proposals for dates and locations be submitted to the next meeting. So I guess that would be just a comment on, yeah, there can be a working group, but we should talk about it next time a little bit. A report back maybe, hopefully.
Okay. Okay. Stephen, go ahead. Your mic is on.
All right, it's 6 p.m. on the West Coast. I have to be at work. I'm going to be in and out of this conference call, so if I don't answer, it means I'm in between a call or using the phone because I'm a taxi driver. I use my phone. Well, I'm a taxi driver on Tuesday, Wednesdays. But and then I just submitted on the Occupy Facebook group page any organizations that or Occupy groups that we're working with to just check that box so we can make sure that we're in correspondence with each of those groups to try to be in hospitality or try to cater to, like, if they can't be on the conference calls, like, what can they do? Like, send emails, like, we would like to participate in doing this and submit a resolution, or we'll be there with this amount of people. And also groups that we should be in contact with, because I think we can have a lot more reach just by addressing and formalizing our relationships with other groups. I'm not sure if people are speaking on behalf of individuals or people are actually speaking on behalf of an Occupy or organization, but just to get more of a commitment to organizing this conference and together. Yield.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. That's a very good point. If we just do a vote, we don't know, does that vote represent 100 students or just one person? So that is one of the drawbacks of simply using a doodle poll. Tricia, go ahead. You have a direct response, and then we've got Chris.
Yeah, I have a direct response. It's not really about the date, so maybe you should do that first and maybe come back to me. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay. Chris Daney, go ahead. Hello, Chris? Chris, your mic, you press number 4. Your mic is on? Okay, I don't think we can get Chris. Let's see if we have anybody else who wants to speak on this. And I'm having a few technical problems on my computer. I'll let you know if I have to turn this over.
Hello?
Tricia? Okay. I'm sorry, Chris?
Yeah, you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, hi, everybody. Okay, I just have a direct response for Stephen. When I am speaking, I'm speaking on behalf of myself and Occupy Naperville. We still meet every single Saturday. We're out pounding the pavements, marching, all that good stuff. So I go back and I report to them what I have heard on the call. One of our other persons that used to be on the calls has dropped out of the group due to some other things that has happened within the group, and I really just don't want to go into that anymore. But both of us were going back to our Occupy Naperville group and letting them know about the dates and the venues and, like, what could we do to help, this NatGet move forward, and what can we bring to the table. So I am speaking on my behalf, but I'm also speaking on the behalf of 20 of us that we meet every Saturday. So I yield.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, Tricia, are you ready?
Well, I just wanted to let everyone know that the Occupy Solidarity Network, I don't know if anybody follows on Twitter, but Justine Tunney and Grim Women have reached out to us. They're the ones that have, are now, they're using the Twitter handle, and they have a lot of resources, and they want to let us use their some of their platforms. And I think it would be a great solidarity relationship. So I would really like to get them in touch with Stephen, and just we don't have to join them or anything, but we can work in solidarity with a lot of groups. So they might be able to help us take large polls and do things like that. So that's just what I wanted to say, that we might have a Occupy Wall Street behind us. So. There's a little controversy there, but that's a point of information. Check.
Okay, great. Thank you. I do have one question for you. If we do decide to have the working group, will there be some mechanism where, say, all of us can give our input to
yes,
you?
The working group would just gather the information and check with all the groups and make just make sure that everyone was and just all the people just gather all that work together. Next week's call, can be decided on those facts that they gather and can set out for us. So it'll make if we do have to choose and vote, it'll make the choice or the vote clearer and have a group that has already crafted it with considerations in mind. That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Check.
Okay, great, because I want to make sure that, I'm hearing a lot of things on call about various different groups, and I want to make sure that there's a mechanism for that to get conveyed to the working group. So you'll come up with some mechanism for that?
I'm not sure what you're saying. I mean, I think Stephen and, and Willie and, I'm just saying that if anybody who's interested in, like about 5 or 6 people who are interested in talking to all the factions, maybe Naperville with the students and the hard grounders and other occupations, and make sure there's no other event going on these days, and then come back with ones that seem reasonable that we can choose from. So I'm just saying a working group to gather facts, a fact-gathering group. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm closing stack now. We've got Cal and Amanda. Cal, go ahead.
Yeah, so I want to suggest that Jackie set up a pad for this group if this group forms, so that you can just record everything there, and anybody who wants to look at it can see it in terms of the progress of contacting the groups and all of that, and we can all sort of, whoever wants to, can just watch it sort of take shape as you guys are doing it. We just have to make sure that only the people, we agree that only the people who are doing that post to the pad. So it's mostly a look-see if you want to, but then we can have transparency. You have a centralized place for it. It's easily accessible when you report back all of that. Check.
Thank you, Cal. I'm seeing a bunch of 2s. I must say I am seeing some 3s on this. So maybe after we have our temp check, we can find out what those objections are. Amanda, okay, you are the last person on stack. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I agree with Cal. I think that we should have a live pad. I don't think that it necessarily should be just for people that are in the working group. People want to hop on there and add their ideas, but I think there needs to be some guidelines. Like you need to have a location, like directions of where you would go. The idea of like something that we haven't really talked a lot about is the idea of what we would do and planning the stages, but whatnot. Anyways, with that. Also, I think we should next week not spend the whole time trying to vote, but actually spend on the locations, going through that, and the working pad, and then on the 26th we can actually vote, because that'll give us more time to move on and that, go through the actual agenda. Check.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, Jackie, if you could go ahead and clear the board hands, let's go ahead and take our temp check. So the question is, shall a work group be formed to discuss the possibility, the various different dates that are feasible for NatGat? And it sounds like a Titan Pad document is also going to be discussed. If you like this, please press number 2 on your keypad. If you do not like this, please press number 3. If you just don't care either way, want to stand aside, abstain, press number 4. Okay, let me repeat that one more time. If you like the idea of having a work group formed that is going to report back to us on possible dates in the NatGat and is going to gather information both internally from us and from other groups about who is available when, press 2. If you don't like that idea, press 3. If you just don't want to vote on that, want to abstain, 4 is the one to press. Okay, let me read what I have so far. We have 14 people pressing number 2. We have 2 3s and 5 4s. I am not going to put anybody on the spot, but if anyone who is voted 3 would like to speak on why they oppose this, go ahead and press number 1, and I will call on you. Otherwise, we'll just take that as a disapproval. I've got one here, and then I've got a couple of direct responses. Let's see. Delphine, go ahead.
Yes, I had a 3 there because I don't feel that would be a good process. I think that when we're talking about dates, there should be there should be research done on the ground to determine what can be done, but I don't think that forming a new work group is going to necessarily be helpful. I think it will just kind of create another layer of opacity that would slow things down and reduce the transparency. I think a simpler solution would just be to have folks who are working on the ground to determine dates report back next week or as soon as they have more info to report back on. But of course, dates and locations go hand in hand.
Well, what do you mean by folks on the ground? Who would be
folks who are developing locations for the NetGap.
You mean just Occupy Sacramento, or who?
Well, it's mostly people in Occupy Sacramento. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and turn on your mic, Tricia, so you can address Delphine's concerns. Go ahead, Tricia.
I'm sorry, I had to get. I was on the. My daughter just called me on the phone. I think the working group would just be a fact-gathering group, not a decision-making group. Check.
Okay, thank you. And now I'd like Joe. Go ahead. Your mic is on.
Yes, I just think that until we find a venue, we could keep voting on the dates until we're blue in the face. But until we find a venue. The venue might be time sensitive. If we find a venue, there might be only certain dates that we could do it then. So if we're going to spend all of our time voting on what dates to do it, we're just going to be backpedaling. We're going to have to find a venue first, people. And until we find the venue, if there are several different dates, once we find the venue, then we could vote. But until then, we're just seems to be wasting a lot of time. Check.
Okay. Let me see if there's anybody else who has a response to that. Okay. I was going to ask Tricia to respond to that, but I think she had to get off of the call. Okay, Cal, go ahead. You've got a response.
Well, I didn't actually vote. I wanted to just let it go. But ever since the idea was suggested, I felt like it's a bit of over-engineering. My feeling is that the folks in Sacramento can get together in whatever configuration they want to, because they're the ones that are going to be finding the venue and deal with it. I think the working group was designed to look at the dates in terms of the availability of indigenous folks, other groups, other factors that made the dates better or worse for the gathering and for the movement. So I don't think that the working group should be looking at venues, because the working group is going to be composed of people that, if it's about the dates, would be composed of people who are not necessarily in Sacramento. I think the matter of the venue really has to be Sacramento. Nobody who's not there could find a venue, as far as I'm concerned. That's my opinion. Check.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, my opinion. This is an advisory group. This is a group that's going to give us more information because we don't want to make a decision and then find out some huge group that we really wanted to come was left out. Emmanuel, go ahead. You've got a response.
Yes. I was wondering, can I change my vote?
Certainly you can. Go right ahead. Just press the new number that you want on your keypad, and your vote will change. Okay. All right. I'm waiting for Emmanuel's vote to change. You still have number 1, Emmanuel. Press either 2, 3, or 4, depending on how you wish to vote. Okay. Well, it looks to me like we've got a very similar. We've got 15 people say yes, 3 people say no, and I'm sorry, 3 people are standing aside, and I've got 5, somebody with a technical problem. Let me see who that is. That looks like Emmanuel. So, Emmanuel, you press number 5. That designates you have a technical problem?
Yeah, I was trying to ask what I don't know which number to vote. Can you tell me which number is it to agree?
Certainly. Number 2 means yes, you agree with having a working group. Number 3 means no, you don't want a new working group established to look into dates. And number 4 means you're just abstaining, standing aside.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Okay, it looks like at the moment we have no 3s. We have just yeses. So it looks like this working group is established. It's just an advisory informational working group. It looks like if you'd like to know what the exact count is, we have 17 2s, no 3s, and 1 4. And I have a comment from Chris. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I have a comment for the whole group, actually. I mean, I've been on a lot of planning committees for large national actions, actually. We've been on the phone for 2 hours, and you haven't made one decision yet. August is getting a lot closer. You're looking at 6 months away. You're not talking at all about transportation committees being set up. You're not talking about logistics committees really being set up too much. You seem to be focusing more on the smaller projects. Your committees are your decision-making bodies in any type of larger-scale action for anything that's being planned by activists in this country on a successful rate. You are trying to make it so this body of the phone call body here is micromanaging everything that committees are doing, which undermines any work that committees do because they come with advisories, and then you end up having people that object to something in the advice that they give, so they have to go back to a committee, which in 6 months' time, that's not a lot of time for that to be going back and forth. You're going to be losing a lot of time. I mean, I was asked to come on these phone calls from a friend who I'll keep anonymous and everything, but they asked me because of my experience in planning and organizing. And, I mean, Cal, I keep trying to email you, but I don't have your email. This process that you're using is counterproductive, really bad. I mean, you're wasting a lot of time. I've been on the last 2 phone calls, and you really haven't gotten much done in the last 4 hours on the phone calls. So I really hope that this group fixes it, because I really would hope that this is a outstanding event that is better than the last 2 by far, just because every action should be better than the one before. Not putting down any of the actions that happened before in any way, shape, or form. They were great actions also. I yield. Cal, if you could give the email address for me one more time, though, I would love that. I yield.
Okay, thank you, Chris. And I we very much value your critiques of us. I know we have not been moving forward as fast as we would like. Let me go ahead and let Cal respond. Cal, go ahead. Cal,
yes,
your mic is on.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Very well.
Hear me? Okay, good. So 2 things. One is I want to invite you, Chris, to join the decision-making process working group. It sounds like your energy would be very valuable to help that group move forward. And so if you email me if you want to be on that group, just let me know. My email address, which I said earlier in the call, again, and I'll repeat it, is cal@interoccupy.net. And I also be happy to chat with you more about your ideas. I'd love to hear them. Thanks. Check.
Great. Thank you. Okay. It is now 6:12. There is one more item that was on the agenda, the anti-racism class, but we have exceeded the time for our call. So I'm just going to put this out there for a temp check. Does anybody want to extend the call to discuss that? If not, I'm going to propose that we move that to next week's agenda. So if you have an objection to moving it, go ahead and press number 1. Emmanuel, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I pressed 1 before you said if I had an objection. I was actually just pressing that because before you had mentioned at the end of the call, you talk about explain what the value-based consensus was. And I was
yes,
just thank
you for reminding me. Thank you for reminding me not to hang up before we do that. Okay, Amanda, go ahead.
Can you just propose it and we try to do this vote process? Check.
That would probably be the best thing to do. Okay. Okay, my proposal is that we move the discussion about the anti-racism workshops to next week's call. If you like that idea, press number 2. If you don't like that idea and would like to discuss it now, press number 3. And if you want to abstain or stand aside, press number 4. So number 2 means we'll move the discussion to next week. Number 3 means I want to talk now. Dallas is on the stack. Thank you. Okay. Dallas, go ahead. I apologize. I overlooked you. Your mic is on.
Thank you. You know what? I think I can save the opinion for now. I've already stood aside. Check.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Last call to vote. Press 2. Postpone till next week. Press 3 if you want to discuss right now. And press 4 if you want to stand aside. There are a couple people who haven't voted yet, including me. Okay, as the vote stands now, it looks like we have 11 people who would like to postpone till next week. 1 person would like to speak about the anti-racism right now, and we've got 6 stand-asides, plus several people who didn't vote. Okay, I don't want to put anyone on the spot. If the person who pressed number 3 wants to talk about why this should not be postponed until next week, go ahead and press number 1. Otherwise, we will just record it as an objection. Okay. All right. I don't see that person putting her hand up to talk. So, again, press number 1 if you object and you would like to talk. Okay. Let me go ahead and read the final vote then. Okay, final vote is 12 in favor of moving to next week, 0 in favor of discussing now and extending the call, 4 abstained. The motion passes. Okay. Before we wrap up the call and I find somebody who would like to speak to Emmanuel about the values-based consensus, does anybody have anything more to add to this call? Go ahead and press number 1 on your keypad. I do see a direct response from Chip. Okay, Chip, you're on.
I had a direct response earlier to what was said about the progress of the meetings. I've been concerned about the same thing. And that last proposal of, like, does this group approve of a working group, I don't think should even be discussed at this level. For if people want to get together and work on something, I don't think that is subject to the vote and the approval of anybody else. I think that's something they can do autonomously and just announce it. We're going to form a group to work on this specific issue, and they don't need anybody's permission to go ahead and do that. And on the flow of the general operation, I would propose that it seems like it's the way it's structured, it's like a one-lane highway. So if you've got something that's broken down or any other issues, it holds everything up. We should organize it like it's a 4 or 8-lane highway, so that if there is somebody that's tired, it pulls off to a rest area, or is broken down, that goes off. The other lanes stay open, it can flow. And that can only be done, I think, by having a decentralization of the whole process, so that you divide up how the logistics have to happen to organize this into different working groups, and you let them do their part, and they just report back. But not having this single group micromanaging every little thing and needing motions and permissions and so forth to deal with everything. It doesn't seem like it can function reasonably that well. Check.
Okay, thank you, Chip. And I know the people who are working on process, Cal and Jackie and others, I think these are excellent considerations. Process is not just about consensus and voting, but it's about how we're moving through our meetings. So I'm definitely looking forward to hearing some suggestions on how we can improve. Gandalf, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to throw in some things about the purpose of NatGat. There seems to be questions about whether there is any purpose to it, or possibly can be, because of the disparate notions of Occupy that were so divided on so many things. But it seems to me that one of the purposes is to establish the legitimacy of Occupy, that we're trying to show that we belong here, that our opinions are cogent and rational and should be considered by the American people. And I think we're also trying to inspire each other and explore a vision of the future of America, of what we want this country to look like. And I think we're trying to establish a core, things that we can unite around as a movement, so that we are not just about grievances and protests, but we have something that we're talking about, a direction that we want to see our nation travel in. And also to make sure that we hear every voice, that there's somehow a way to make everyone feel that they had an opportunity to contribute, that they had a chance to speak. Whether everyone agreed with them or not, at least they had a chance to speak. And I think we can achieve all those things at the national gathering. And I think we're a little cynical and a little too easy to dismiss the potential for what we're doing here. We have some time. We will evolve. We will solve these little issues one by one, and we're going to do it by talking to each other as a community, which is what we're doing, and I think we should feel good about it. I just think there's so much kind of nitpicking and concerns about details that we lose the bigger picture.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Gandalf. I very much appreciate that input, really. We've got Chaz. Okay, Chaz, go ahead. Your mic is on.
Hi, this is Chaz. It was a direct response to what Chip had said. A Twinkle Up was not going to express my severe agreement with what he had said about the analogy with the highway is perfect, and the autonomy of the working groups is absolutely spot on with our principles of Occupy Wall Street. And yeah, I totally agree with you, Chip. Thank you. Check.
Okay, thank you, Chaz. I'm hoping that there's going to be some way we can put this really important topic on the agenda, because yes, we do need to make our calls a lot more productive and efficient while still giving everyone a chance to speak. Jackie, I was wondering if you could take Emmanuel into a private breakout and explain the value-based consensus, if you feel comfortable doing that. Otherwise, I don't see anybody else with hands up. So thank you very much for your patience in this call, and we'll always strive to do better. I think it's actually been a very, very good call. So actually, Jackie.
Lisa? Yeah, I don't know enough about base consensus. I know a few things I've learned from Facebook, posters, especially the black, but I don't really know the whole basis, so I don't think I'm the one to explain it.
Okay, maybe
Check.
Cal.
Is there anyone else on the call? Check.
Thank you. Cal, go ahead. Your mic is on, and then Chaz.
Yeah, I actually don't know that much about VBC, so it'll probably have to be somebody else. I just wanted to respond to the last thing you said, Lisa, which is that the process group can expand to include how to make these calls more productive. As somebody suggested, process is more than just making decisions, and so the process group can deal with matters of process beyond just the decision making. That seems to be the logical way to go. Check.
Okay, thank you very much, Cal. We've got Jennifer. Go ahead. Your mic is on.
Yeah, I was just going to say I would like to be a part of that dialogue with Emmanuel, not as the educator, the student learning about value-based consensus. And I was also thinking that it might be able to be part of this call. I know it makes the call longer, or maybe other people would want to stay on and listen, because it also is good for everybody to have the same definition. So, but I would like to be included, whether it's a break off or something separate or whatever we say on.
Okay. Chris, go ahead.
I've used value-based consensus in a lot of groups that I've worked with. If people would like to learn more about it, I would be more than happy to do a breakout group or something, but I'd like to have a little bit more time to prepare, and I'd like everybody to be able to have internet access, because there's some diagrams and there's some stuff on the internet that it works better with visual aid than just trying to explain it. That's all. And I yield.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And we have now, let's see. Chaz, did you have another response, or is your hand up from your previous?
Yes, am I on?
Yes, you are
Hello?
on.
Oh,
yes.
Excellent. I make a proposal that if anybody would like to talk about VBC, we just stay on the call afterwards. We can let anybody who doesn't want to talk about it go. I know a little bit. I've been studying. I'm friends with Sumumba. That's the model that OccuEvolve works with, and we could at least clear it up for Emmanuel. That's, I mean, just a definition-wise, and if we want to talk about it, we'll stay on the call. That's my proposal. Check.
Thank you very, very much. And that segues into my closing. Is that if we don't have any more official business to conduct, I'm going to go ahead, turn on everybody's mic. Anybody who wants to stay on, you can just go ahead and speak freely. You don't have to press any buttons. Myself, I'm going to leave the call, but I'm opening up the mics for everyone to speak. So again, thanks very, very much. I appreciate everybody's time that's being devoted to this. And I'm opening the mics. So again, thank you and good night.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa. Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Lisa.
Good night.
Good night,
Great
Lisa.
job. Hi, this is Delphine. I wanted to say also that I've been reading up about values-based consensus, but I don't believe I've actually used it, so I'm eager to participate in this conversation and hear from folks who know more about it.
Cool. Yeah, Delphine, I'm going to stay on too. We'll wait for some of the chatter to go away, and then we can talk.
And remind everybody that everybody's mic's open, so that means if you have background noise, everybody's hearing it. So please mute yourself at your phone from this point on if you're not actually going to talk or if you have background noise. Check.
Is it number 5 to mute? Check.
I'm sorry, number 6. Number 6, you can mute yourself through the system if you just press 6 to mute and unmute yourself.
And they won't die either.
How can you mute?
Yes.
Yes.
Press the number 6 to mute, just the number 6 on your phone, and to unmute yourself, again, press 6. So 6 will mute you and 6 will unmute you. Check.
Okay, thanks.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, I muted myself. Let me try again.
When does the process group meet?
The process group, I don't know.
Go
ahead.
Announce who you are because people don't recognize you from your voices, so say who you are each time you speak, since we're not calling on people from this point on. Check.
Or not. So I don't know when the process group meets. I don't know if they have a telephone call set up. Cal, do you guys have a call, or is it just email right now?
Right now it's the email group. I asked if people wanted to have a call, and if so, how soon, and I got no response at all. The group's not really engaged fully yet. There's I don't remember how many people on it, about a half a dozen, 2 or 3 people have spoken. There's been about 5 posts in the 3 days. It's actually for 4 or 5 days it's been up and running. So if you want to join that group, send me an email, cal@interoccupy.net, and we'll get you set right up there, and we'll hopefully get this conversation to be vibrant. Check.
How do you spell the
cool.
part of that?
I'm sorry, what was that?
How do you spell Cal? I keep trying different words.
Oh, Cal like California, C-A-L.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Importantly, is Emmanuel still on the call?
Yes.
Emmanuel. Oh, good. All right. And I think somebody
so
had
just
mentioned.
So you know, Chad, before you start talking, there's right now 15 people still on the call out of the original 24, so you've got a nice crowd here. I suggest you just sort of take it away. And I don't even see you on the board anymore, Chas. Huh?
Oh.
But he has volunteered to give an overview.
Well, I volunteered to give my brief summary of I mean, and it has a lot to do with the problems we've been having on these calls. It has a lot to do with the problems in Occupy Wall Street itself, because there's been so many divisions on how do we come to consensus. One of those ways to come to consensus is through defining our common values that we want to work on, and that if anybody in the group doesn't want to, doesn't agree with those values, then they go and form another group, basically, that leads to the splintering process that we've seen, occur over the last 2.5 years. So anyway, for me, value-based consensus means that we discuss our shared values, and how do we do that? We discuss it by thinking about who we are and what we want to be. Examples of shared values are, some groups form because they're against war, and that's their main value, and maybe they have tertiary values like they're also against capital punishment or abortion or the death penalty, or so that's a kind of value-based consensus that a group can form around. For this kind of group, we're a planning group for a national conference under the auspices of Occupy Wall Street, so our shared values would be something along the lines of we want to have a big meeting in California where we would invite you know, a diverse group of people to come. So I don't know. I don't know enough to give a speech. So I guess what we should talk about is like, you know, questions. Like we could start off with Emmanuel, because that's your idea. Like what questions do you have about what value-based consensus is?
I have actually no idea what value. I'm coming from a place of complete ignorance, so any kind of information anybody can offer would kind of help me understand it better. I do know that thinking about your examples, maybe a little bit how are people coming together on what values that you have in common for what is going to be, you know, whatever's going to be happening at the conference or whatever.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of times when people do this kind of consensus model, it's face-to-face, and they meet in person. So one of the reasons we have the national gatherings is so we can meet face-to-face and decide what our shared values are. So that's you know, I think you're catching on to what it's about. Does anybody else have like a definition, like maybe a sentence or two about what value-based consensus is?
Can I ask a question? People are...
Oh, sure. Yeah.
As people are clarifying their definition, think about too. So is that the model that was used when Occupy Wall Street started? First of all, and second of all, what are the other models, or that particularly that have been proposed or used within groups people here have worked with?
Initially, Occupy Wall Street was pretty much values-based. It was a group of people across the country and across the continent that wanted to occupy Wall Street. So they were like, yep, that's our shared value. You know, we want to occupy it because Wall Street is the big problem. And so they went ahead and started to go about the planning of that. And so by the time the thousands of people came to Lower Manhattan, that's when they instituted a General Assembly process. And with the General Assembly, it was based on consensus, so that, you know, if you have 1,000 people and one person puts up a block, then there's no consensus. So that's been a big problem, you know, for a lot of people. But at any rate, I think I answered your second question. I don't remember the first.
This is Glenn, Chip. I'm wondering, there's this comparison chart that's been floating around, I think, that introduced this, where it had typical consensus and compared to the value-based consensus. I don't know if that's a sufficient or accurate portrayal, but maybe that can be discussed. He emailed to person to, you know, give him more thought about it. And of course, there's always Google to start researching what value-based consensus is. I think it's interesting. I'm getting along a similar line. I'm looking at the May 1st collective, where it's all activists. They try as much as possible things in their horizontal way. And part of that is they have a statement of unity. In order to join this collective, you have to agree to the principles that for which this collective stands. So in other words, they don't want this big capitalist corporation to come in and use their web services and their facilities and that. They're trying to say, wait a minute, before you do this, you have to agree that you're going to make a world like we are. And so I kind of look at that and also compare that to how Occupy operates. That seems to be a fundamental premise. Otherwise, you're just subject to being torpedoed with outside people who do not share the values but have intention to disrupt and derail coming together. And I guess kind of what helped me start adding perspective, and I'm just kind of like touching the surface, is somebody recommended a book that I just finished called Hillbilly Nationalist. and it told a period of history back in the 60s, 70s, in several places across the country, but a lot of it was Chicago, Philadelphia, and that, where you had hillbillies forming a group and the Black Panthers coming in, helping them, teaching them how to organize. And they had the Latinos.
Yeah,
they had the
right on, man.
All
Right
of,
on.
they went, and the
That's awesome.
defining factor was to come in and say, what is our common ground? How we have our differences, but we have a common ground. And number one is going to be poverty. We're all being that. And we're also being subject to police brutality. All of us are being beaten down in the streets. And so they use their common experiences to begin working and doing positive things in their. They started opening up food places to feed people, free medical clinics where the people could go, and all kinds of productive things. And they were doing it across all the color lines. So I think that history of what happened there is a lot to be learned from. And I'm still rolling it over about, how that impacts like the issues that we're even talking about the last few weeks here. And so I'll leave it at that, Chuck.
Hey,
I have
this
a
is
question,
Donna.
and then
have a direct action. Could I have a direct response to that? This is Donna. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I have a direct response to that. I like what you said. That's kind of why I made the point earlier in the call about standing in solidarity with the Occupy Wall Street movement. And to me, that means that when I read basically the principles of solidarity, I agreed with that. I resonated with what they said in that document. Then when the Declaration of the Occupation of New York City came out, all of those things that focused on the common goal, which is occupying Wall Street and occupying the bankers and the 1% and the people who are at the root of pretty much every issue on the planet, if we trace it back, which is kind of the point of Occupy Wall Street. There's a lot of noise in the background, but also
Donna,
28 bullet points, and that really
Donna,
gives you.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just want to say to whomever just coughed, please mute yourself if you're not speaking.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to say that in terms of value-based consensus, I would think that, at this point it seems that the people who have stayed with the Occupy movement and who work best with the Occupy movement are people that have the same values as the principles of solidarity passed by Occupy Wall Street on the very first day in Ducati Park, and also that agree with what is written in the Declaration of the Occupation of New York City. And pretty much everything, there's so much that's covered in that document, it's hard for anyone not to agree with what's written there. But all that is premised, all those values are things that I think occupiers decided to stand in solidarity with Occupy Wall Street. When me in San Diego, I made that choice because I agreed with what was happening there. So in terms of relating that to values-based consensus, in a way, all people involved with Occupy, there is obviously an overlap. So I hope that we can get resonating with everyone, and everyone needs to agree. It's kind of a Venn diagram where we're all overlapping in certain ways. I think the biggest issue is we need to focus on our common, immediate uniting to address the most severe issue, which is an accelerating pace of poverty and all manner of taking down the 99%. I'll just yield there. I think you get my point.
I have a question.
Actually, I have a question too.
Yeah. Well, my question is, okay, if this values-based consensus has to do with common goals and common agreements and wanting to unite across cultural and class and race lines, why is it that Occupy was unable to hear the Native representatives the first year of Occupy when they said the word Occupy is offensive to us, and we ask you if you want to work in solidarity with us, if you want us to work in solidarity with you, you need to reconsider this name, this brand. That's my question.
Just a real quick answer to that. Like I said earlier, it was a group of people like Adbusters and just some anarchists that came up with the idea to occupy. Occupy shouldn't be a noun. It's a tactic of resistance that, you know, where you occupy like the Senate, you know, or occupy Wall Street.
Yeah,
you know,
I know
you go to
all
Wall
that.
Street.
I know all that.
Yeah, well,
and the Native
I
representatives
know
who
you
spoke
did.
to Occupy knew that too. I'm just saying,
well,
people came to the gathering, to the GAs, and they said, look, we understand what your purpose is and we are in agreement with it. However, we find this word Occupy offensive, and it hurts us to work under that label. And still Occupy decided, rather than unite with what ultimately became Idle No More, decided to keep that Occupy name because it was branded, and they wanted to keep that brand. So explain that shit to me.
Occupy is dead.
That.
Oh, go ahead, Donna. But I don't know if it's good. We're in a pretty hostile. Yeah.
No. I'd like to make a comment. To me, I take. You know, I like to consider all of this. I actually lived at Fort Hernandez in LA for 5 days, and there was also an issue there regarding the word fort, which Fort Hernandez changed their name to Pueblo Hernandez. So I think that right now we're all trying to learn about each other and what these words mean, what these concepts mean. To me, when I first heard about the issue with the word occupy, like others have said, I saw it as a verb. We're completing an action. And I understand what that action means in various contexts, but I didn't consider that it would be that offensive because of the occupation of Alcatraz Island in 1969 from AIM. So that concept seems to have a history with the Native community. So for me, I still don't understand. I want to understand. And I think that these kinds of discussions and everyone defining the words and figuring out what hurts each other, I mean, that's part of how we grow and how we're going to move together with love, is to have compassion and to understand these things. So I do want to understand, because to me it was confusing from the beginning. And I visited Occupy Albuquerque. I talked with many of the people there regarding they had discussions there at Occupy Albuquerque about what to call them. I know a lot of the groups formed as Decolonize, and again, these are discussions that we don't all know everyone's definition. And that's part of values-based consensus. What are each of our values? What do words mean? So I definitely would like to learn more. So I can't explain, how that happened. In spite of all that, I wasn't there to help hear that discussion, but certainly there are many ongoing discussions, and hopefully we can have the time to hear all of them at some point in time. I yield. Thank you.
I would just like to say I really appreciate. I'd like to respond. When Native folks occupy something, it's their land that they're occupying. That's a whole separate thing from a bunch of settlers occupying space and saying that they're occupying what doesn't belong to them. Different point of view. I just want to make that as, just to clarify a little confusion.
I would like to say that I really appreciate your perspective on words and on what I see and heard you say is using this as an opportunity to continue to learn, and that I personally don't think and hope that the conversation, even around the name Occupy, is solid and can't still be moved and changed as more discussion happens around it. This has been a long call for everybody. I'm one of the people, actually the person that suggested we we keep going, and I want to come back to the original thing. I agree that these conversations are really important and need to happen, but in just my own trying to understand value-based consensus, I definitely will Google it. I've learned a lot from you all today, but so when people don't want to use that as the model, say for this this planning group right now, what other models are they thinking about? Like Robert's Rule of Orders, or like Cal was talking about, like a 99% if there's a block. Those are the alternatives? That's it.
Hey, this is Cal. I can only stay on the call a few more minutes. I'm actually on another call. This call overlapped almost entirely with the monthly InterOccupy core call, which we haven't actually had for 2 months. So I'm trying to juggle myself back and forth. But I have a comment about the Occupy name and then a question about values-based consensus to help try to get it back onto that topic. My view that when I hear Occupy Wall Street, it lands so completely different for me than occupy a location like Oakland or Milwaukee or something like that. So when I hear Occupy Wall Street, that was the intent, was to occupy the seat of power that is holding us all hostage because of the financial imbalance. That to me is a very appropriate use of the word occupy when I hear it applied to a place that's land or a city or something like that. It's always bothered me. And, you know, Oakland tried to change their name in a very contentious, one of the most well-attended GAs to decolonize Oakland. The measure only got 62% of the vote. And then last year, this gathering planning committee wanted to put either or de-occupy in front of the name Occupy International Gathering. And someone from Occupy Wall Street came onto the single call and got the group to change it not to D or unoccupy, but to Occupy Wall Street, which I didn't think really addressed the problem as clearly as all that, because it still really got known as the Occupy Gathering. So I've been uncomfortable with the term Occupy, particularly in Oakland. It comes up because the descendants of the Ohlone tribe, whose land Oakland sits on, regularly attended those GAs. That's my feeling about it. As far as the values-based, I have a question, so I don't know much about it. My question, and I don't know if anybody here can answer it, but if so, it seems to me that to have a values-based consensus process, then the group has to align on a set of values. What if we don't align on a set of values? What if there are significant contingents in the group that say, well, I don't align with those values, these are the values that are important to me? How do you actually then move forward with? I don't know how you end up with a basis on which to do a values-based consensus process or come to consensus if you don't agree on values, if you don't align on values. That's my question. If anybody has an answer for that, I'd love to hear it, and then I'll probably have to scoot. Check.
Great question. I was going to ask it myself.
I think that comes down to this is a whole gradual process. That there's things that we can agree on and other things we'll have to agree not to agree on. And on the Occupy thing, I know when I was invited up and went up to Six Nations where they were doing land protection, they made reference to it's the occupation site. But again, that was their land. And I noted from one of the postings that I put was after a Dakota woman went out to Occupy, and the videos on Facebook where she's addressing that point about using, adopting that term of Occupy and the inference of it. The year previous to that, in 2010, she put about a very bold statement and used occupation. The way she used it was, there's a couple of ways that the settler population can help us, and one of those ways, she says, is to occupy and seize land and turn it back to us. So it's like how it's being used as a tactic and as a tool, but if it's used from the idea of it's changing hands from one set of occupiers to a kinder, gentler set of occupiers, then that's not such a good move. I think thinking back to the social forum that we had in Detroit in 2010, and the theme of the social forum was another world is possible, another U.S. is necessary. And in our indigenous working group, we came back and said, well, we have to understand that's the theme, that another U.S. is necessary. Our view is we've had enough of the U.S. We don't want another U.S. We want our land back. We want our lives back. So even in that, as progressive as that was, and then the suggestion was made, instead of representing this being the U.S. social forum, why not start thinking in terms of this is the Turtle Island social forum? And so that's
a discussion about the Occupy name or value-based consensus? Because I'm confused. I'm very confused because we talk about the Occupy name now, but we're supposed to be talking about value-based consensus. People keep asking questions about value-based consensus, but people keep interrupting people to try to answer those questions and go back to discussing the Occupy name and the use of it. Yeah, the Occupy name is coming from somebody that's walked across the Navajo Nation, and talked to those people. Last I checked, they were indigenous people who became an honorary member, who used the name Occupy Wall Street and explained to them what it was about, and they understood. I mean, the name thing, man, that's a divisive tactic. Trying to talk about the name is a tactic that's used for divisiveness, for splitting, for splintering. And we want to keep talking about that and splinter us.
The person who brought up the question had an honest question about why that term continues to be used. If this group excuse me, can I finish my thought, please? The person who brought up that question wanted to know if this is a group that prioritizes addressing racism and wants to deal with oppressive tactics, and this is part of addressing values-based consensus. Why does Occupy continue to use this name? That is a fair question, and that is a splinter off of the values-based consensus conversation. So are we going to be rigid now and try to control the conversation and interrupt someone else as you just did when he was explaining his perspective on Occupy?
Real quick.
Oh my goodness.
Real quick.
Well, first off,
Glenn was finished.
That point. Oh my God.
Wait. I'm sorry. No. Okay. There was an interruption. I don't think that Glenn was interrupted. The previous speaker was interrupted. So we shouldn't interrupt.
I started speaking, and Glenn just interrupted me right when I started to answer the questions and rambled on. I started speaking and was interrupted by Glenn. When the question was posed by the lady about the name Occupy, I said, I really can answer that, and started speaking, and I was interrupted. So I'm sorry if I have to interrupt, but when you're being interrupted constantly, then you have to actually use the process that's being used in the conversation, and that's just a free-for-all. So that's what I did. So don't take offense for me using the process that you guys are all using. You guys aren't showing any respect to any of the speakers, so I'm sorry if I'm not going to, but don't criticize me for it. Thank you. Now, if you want to understand why the name Occupy was used by Wall Street and why they haven't changed the name, is because the Native Americans actually used the word Occupy when they occupied Alcatraz. And in a similar principle and similar tactics, you use a similar name because population and society, the sheeple, that's what they're used to. And you're going for that name recognition, yes, because you're getting through to more people and you're making your action actually more effective. And that discussion has been made with many members of indigenous people by myself personally, throughout Arizona all the way up the west coast to Seattle and up to Bellingham. For the last year and a half, I've been doing that myself personally. So if you want to actually learn how they feel about it, I can discuss it because I've talked to a lot of members personally. We actually made Seattle take down the Christopher Columbus statue on Christopher Columbus Day 2 years ago. So, I mean, you want to discuss it, and that was under Occupy Seattle's name. So if you want to discuss it, we do stand for indigenous people completely. Occupy Wall Street made a fatal flaw when it first printed this thing and did not include them. That was a fatal flaw, yes. And people quickly realized that throughout the country. Sorry, we didn't reprint it instantly, but, I mean, yeah, everybody's included. And this land is everybody's land now. This is everybody's land. Fatal flaws were made in this country by white people, that wrote this Constitution, it didn't include anybody except for rich white men. The fatal flaws were made there, and we're trying to correct those. But trying to correct those by bringing up the past constantly doesn't move the group forward. Now, if you want to talk about value-based consensus works on the values of the group that they have in common. When you have differences, you try to work around those differences or not even use differences. If we both agree on nonviolence, but we both disagree on the tactic to do it, great. Use both tactics. It allows members of committees. Yes?
Sorry.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can everybody else?
I just wanted to kind of interject, if that's okay. Just from what I'm hearing from, I'm Emmanuel, by the way, and from what I'm hearing from the response about value-based and all that, I don't know who it was. It might have been you. I don't know who it was that was talking about the book that they read about how the Black Panthers and the Hillbillies kind of use that value-based thing to come together and unite in that way. And I just kind of wanted to go back to that real quick, just so that and to tie it in with everything that you're discussing, everybody else has been saying. That a group as big as Occupy, from what I'm hearing, the value-based, when people come together, and I don't know who it was that mentioned that it's usually done in person, that when it involves various cultural groups, like hillbillies and the Black Panthers were Black people, and when it involves bringing together different cultural groups, that there's a sensitivity there that has to be kind of acknowledged, and that also it's always good to be open to that if that's what you're going for. From what I'm hearing about the value station, it's just always good to be open to that, no matter how of an ally that you think you are. Somebody mentioned walking across the Navajo Nation and all that. There's like over 565 at least federally recognized, and then there's all the unfederally recognized tribes. And you go to another reservation, and they might have a different, feeling about it. And at the same time, there's all these other things that play into it. There's things within the fundamental, core of our country that have to do with treaties and all that kind of stuff, which actually have to do with land, which actually have to do with occupying and what that means. It's not all our
right,
land.
So I can get back to the other call now.
Wait a minute, Emmanuel is talking still. Allow him to finish. Somebody is being really rude and you're cutting Manuel off.
Sorry, that was an accident. The mic was supposed to be open. I apologize. It was supposed to be closed. Sorry.
Well, I was just basically saying that I'm kind of thinking out loud too at the same time, tying together everything that everybody was saying, everything that everybody was offering about what value-based means to them, and in this discussion that came out of it, and kind of my feelings about it, and looking for feedback on that. If anybody has any, that's just what I'm putting out there. So you can go ahead.
Hey, real quick, because I just entered the conversation and I've been listening for like the last 20 minutes. How do you get on the stack so I'm not interrupting people? And then is there a time limit that people are allotted? Because I don't want to step on anybody's toes. And if someone's talking too much, I would like for them to step down too, or to at least share the conversation. Any stack?
There is no stack. The mics are just open, so there's no process really.
And that's part of the problem. If we were sitting in a circle in a room, there would be an understanding of that, and you might go from one person to the next. They call it, like round robin fashion. But even that could be possibly facilitated so that it goes from person to person and doesn't become a back and forth dialogue between two people. And so that's just a thought of like how these open mic conversations, do proceed. Maybe it would eliminate some of the friction that seems to be happening and stepping on other people's conversations. And part of it's out of ignorance because you hear a moment of silence, you don't hear anybody, so then you speak up, and then not realizing that somebody else needs to, I don't even know how many people are on this call right now to give space for it. So that's all I'll say, Chuck.
So is there like a question about what's going on, or is this like open dialogue? People are giving comments. I'm sorry, I'm working right now. I just stepped in. I just got a break. So.
Stephen, we were essentially, it's after the call, and we're just talking openly about what values-based consensus is. Manuel had a question, and we were just discussing it. We also got into the discussing the word occupy and how that fits into values-based consensus. And that's pretty much where we are.
I have a quick question. I don't know who was it that was mentioning that book about how the Black Panthers and hillbillies were getting together. Cause I had heard of that before. I was wondering if you had the name of the book.
Hillbilly Nationalist.
That would be me. I'm Glenn. The title of it, it's a longer title. I know it starts out with Hillbilly Nationalist. Like things, and it gets down to, I think, that finding the common ground, as these were urban white people living in poverty areas, in particular, like in Chicago, where these meetings started taking Panthers. And so they had a common ground there. They were both getting busted by the police. They were poor and all of that. And out of that, the bigger story then, and there was a couple of movies that were made of videos that are available showing that, and that started circulating. And one of these white people that went back home in the South, running down there, and the guy says, "Hey, didn't I see you working with them niggers?" And a short time after that, they found him with his throat cut. So I said, whoa, that's kind of a wake. These are both white groups, but the group in the inner city had a different common ground that was not shared with those down in the hills. So that's a different beast, and that population has to be dealt with in a different way. You've got to find a different common ground there. So, like, this is just new to me. I never heard about this history until a few weeks ago when I read the book, and it's just like, this is like a major mind trip then, dealing at that level. So, check.
I'm going to go look it up.
This is Delphine. I would like to comment when I'm not stepping on anyone else's voice on the non-stacks.
Let me just interject before you go that there's apparently there's somebody who's knowledgeable about value-based consensus, and we're trying to get that person onto the call. So just hold tight. Check.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? It's Tricia. Hi. From where I came from, value-based consensus is kind of just a sense of the meeting, just when everybody feels it's right. I mean, people might have A, they might have B, and C, is something that feels right. In the smaller groups, it is better. And looking at faces, it does work better because we're giving out a lot of signals that we can't see. When people are frustrated or if they've been waiting a long time, So I just hesitate to, have this turn into an online movement. I would like to see people meet face-to-face and have real conversations and develop relationships that they can, maintain online but have in real life, because we have real-life problems and people need support. And mutual aid is going to be really come in handy. So, I just think that that's our value, is to be able to, have a system where we can help each other when stuff goes down, like they did for Occupy Sandy. Check.
So are you saying that value-based consensus is basically a unanimous consensus based on the values of the group?
Yeah, well, it feels like that. I mean, I've been in lots of non-hierarchical groups, and it's just kind of like an ascent when everyone looks around at each other, and you get that sense of the meeting about where we're going to go. I mean, we all come with questions, and then we meet together, and then we have answers and can go out and do it. And if someone doesn't feel right about it, that's listened to. And if there's not that, if it's a real problem, then you don't do it. And so, because there's wisdom in the individual too. So I think using this on conference calls is really very frustrating and hard. And trying to have relationships on Facebook is also hard. There's like quite a few people I would just like to, have been able to hug a few times during this, year and a half, but I just haven't been able to. So I just, hope that we just see ourselves as a working group for this gathering, that we can, make a safe space for people to let these conversations happen in a more, natural way, face to face. Check.
That works well with homogeneous groups. What do you do when you have a great deal of diversity in a large group? This is my question, and Cal, I think, asked the same question.
Yeah, well, it starts out in a small group, and then, it gets, there may be one person representing the small group, then can go into the larger, groups, and it can, move off exponentially from there. And everyone feels that they are represented and have, the assent, and feel included. Because if we vote, there's always going to be somebody who's been left out, and somebody who couldn't make the call, and someone who doesn't have a computer. So I really don't want to see power concentrated in this planning group, because it's just not there. It's in the people, and what we're doing is facilitating that and having a safe place for people to gather in different parts of the country to talk about these issues in real life.
Which brings me back to the original question. How do you have values-based consensus if you have a large, diverse group and people are unable to come to consensus? There is no homogeneity within the group.
Well, we're all human beings, and we all, need clean air, food, and water. That's the visioning group, came up with that the first night. So I don't want to go back and forth, but there is a vision out there, and I'll post it again, because as human beings, we do all need clean food, water, and air, and that's being threatened.
Perhaps we need to sign sort of an accord that we all agree on a certain value basis.
This is Dustin.
So this is Cal. I'm going to jump in here with a response to that, because as you know, I'm share of Sharon's concern about the heterogeneous nature of Occupy and the ethnic and cultural diversity. And I thought about this, that having, like with nonviolent communication, which works on universal needs that everyone has, to some degree, when you're actually doing the practical nuts and bolts work, there's sort of idealized notions to some degree. Yes, we all have shared common values, but it doesn't take into account the differences between values in the diverse groups. For example, I'll give you an example, and we're still trying to get that guy back onto the call. The examples I'll give is that my understanding that generally in the white world, this is right out of the anti-racism training that I've taken. Most white folks have it's the intention that matters, like it's the thought that counts. So what you intend to do matters more than almost what you actually end up with as a result. And so if you do something that's messed up, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to run over your cat. Let me apologize to you. is very different from what I understand at least some of the groups of color, folks of color do, which is that it's the actual impact of what you do that matters and the results. So their response is, yeah, but my cat's dead, and it's your car that ran over that. You know, the apology is nice, but, and so just even that fundamental difference, and that may not seem like a huge thing, but just that fundamental, to me, that just makes it almost completely untenable to try to do this with a value, with what I imagine, and again, I'm ignorant of values-based consensus, so I plead that coming into this conversation, but it just as my mind just reels at the idea that even something as fundamental as that, let alone real cultural and differences in customs and things like that. You know, in some cultures it's considered essential to look people directly in the eye to create a solid connection. In other cultures, it's completely almost verboten and rude to do that. The list goes on. So I don't understand how this can work in a heterogeneous group. So Sharon and I are standing on the same side of the room. Check.
Thank you, Cal. I appreciate that.
Yes. Thank you, Cal. This is Nicole speaking here. I was going to say, as far as the whole idea that we're people, yes, we're all people, but let's just say, for example, I'm a woman. I want somebody to see me as a woman. That is an important part of who I am, how I was raised, how I was socialized in a patriarchal culture. We want to be seen as who we are. I am also a white woman, which means that I was born with a certain privilege that, no, I did not choose, but I was still born with that privilege as a white woman. And that is important for me to recognize that and be mindful of that in my interactions with other people. People of color, and it's important to see people as they are for who they are. And to say, well, we're all people, intentionally or unintentionally, is dismissive, and it's perpetuating this idea of color blindness. And color blindness keeps us from seeing people as who they are. It keeps us from seeing ourselves as we are, and from being mindful of how we interact with people in this culture based on the way we're socialized with the privilege we do or do not have. And we need to be mindful of that when we're interacting with people. And instead of just saying we're people and that's all that matters, we need to see ourselves and other people as they are so we can address these issues. And I totally see with the whole values-based consensus, that's very hard, because if we're in a group that isn't recognizing, trying to think of a way to put this, if we're not recognizing oppressive behaviors or even an oppressive structure on the whole and how it applies to us, how are we ever going to move forward? Beck.
Right on.
Yes, right on. I also want to point out that there is a huge difference between values and needs, and then as Cal brought up, intent versus impact.
Yeah. This is Glenn. If I could jump in again, I got the full title to that book. It's Hillbilly Nationalist, Urban Race Rebels and Black Power, Community Organizing in Radical Times. Authors were James Tracy and Amy Sony. And it's just very interesting to understand the processes that the Black Panthers used, because they were the key to bringing this coalition together. It was their analysis and their strategy, their outreach into these communities that was effective at that time. But it also, in the story, it shows how the government reacted and stomped down to destroy all of the good things that they were doing. So that's the other reality check, is when you are going to be doing good things, they will not tolerate that. They will come back and, wreak havoc. On another level, that picks up a little bit with that, in Michigan they passed a constitutional amendment that they called it, they try to eliminate race as an issue, and what it was is to kill affirmative action that was being done to effect some reparative, restorative justice for people that have been marginalized. And the reality of that is, all it does is take the word race away, and it leaves embedded the status quo, which gives advantage to the white privilege class. And because
You're
you
so
can't
right.
use that, and so I'm strategizing right now, thinking up ways to go in and attack that. And in the last couple of weeks, have been floating my ideas to a couple of rebel attorneys that I know to try and go after that. That it's the impact of it when you know, like at Wayne State when they did that where my daughter goes, the population of the people of color dropped off after they passed that. And you, in the middle of Detroit, and she's in the law school there, and you've got the law school predominantly occupied by people from Oakland County, which is one of the richest counties in the country, lily white, and they are the ones that are populating the law school in the middle of Detroit, where it should be, you know, there's black people there. And yet they can't get in because the advantage is given because of that law. And so my argument to come back with that is, look, you look at the law, even though they take that away, it has a racial impact. So the method of how the schools are implementing their admission policy, when it can be shown and proven that it has a racial disparity, then attack that. That is illegal, then you are using a method that is affecting this disparity. And
that sounds great, Chip. I was wondering if you could retell us that title so we can write it down this time a little more slowly.
I'll post it up to the Facebook page.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. Check.
This is Amanda from Michigan. I'm signing off. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. I'm signing off too. Thanks for everything. Thanks for all your time, and I hope you guys have a good week. Bye.
Yeah, thank you everyone. I appreciate all the explaining and examples and dialogue. Thank you. This is Emmanuel.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
good. Okay. I must have had myself on mute, but I couldn't tell when I was on mute and when I wasn't because people were talking over me either way. I mean, whether I hit 6 or hit another 6. But I guess the call's over, so I guess, well, never mind. Everything I was going to say is...
I'm still here. Say it.
Okay. Who else is still on the call and who wants to stay long enough to have any conversations?
I was just wondering if Emmanuel was still on the phone. I wanted to find out if he had his question answered.
Yep, I think he's gone.
Okay. All right. Hold on. I'm going to sign out then. Thank you so much.
Well, I think I'm at the end of the call, so I guess it's over. But, have a good night.
Good night.
Night all.
Night all.